Good evening, my cherished friends. Tonight I want to share with you the one quality, the single most important feeling that separates those who successfully manifest their desires from those who struggle endlessly despite knowing all the techniques, all the methods, all the so-called secrets. That quality is naturalness. Not excitement, not desperation, not even faith in the traditional sense. Naturalness. When I speak of naturalness, I'm referring to that quality of feeling completely normal about your desire being fulfilled. It's the difference between a man who has just won the lottery, jumping, screaming, unable to believe his good fortune, and a man who has been wealthy for 20 years, who handles prosperity with the same ease you handle breathing. One consciousness shouts, "Can you believe this is happening to me?" The other consciousness whispers, "Of course, this is who I am." The first man is experiencing his desire. The second man is being his desire. And it's the second man whose wealth will remain and multiply, while the first man's winnings will likely slip through his fingers within a few years. Why? Because naturalness is the signature of permanence. What feels natural to you must manifest and must remain. What feels unnatural, miraculous, or surprising will slip away as soon as the excitement fades. I learned this principle many years ago through a simple observation. I watched how people related to different aspects of their lives, and I noticed something fascinating. Everyone has some area of their life where they feel completely natural, completely at ease. For some it's their health, for others it's their relationships. For still others it's their creativity or intelligence. Whatever area feels natural to you, where you don't question it, don't worry about it, don't feel you need to prove it, that area remains stable in your life. You don't wake up each morning wondering if you'll still be intelligent. You don't check throughout the day to make sure you're still creative. You simply are these things, and because you are them naturally, they persist effortlessly. But notice the areas of your life where you struggle, where things feel like constant effort, where you experience lack or limitation. In these areas you lack naturalness. You're trying to be something rather than naturally being it. You're working to have something rather than naturally having it. A woman once approached me after a lecture in Los Angeles. She was impeccably dressed, clearly well educated, articulate. "Mr. Goddard," she said, "I can manifest small things easily. Parking spaces, chance encounters, minor synchronicities. But the big things, the things I really want, a truly fulfilling relationship, financial freedom, my dream career, these elude me no matter how much I imagine them. Why?" I studied her for a moment, then asked a simple question. "When you imagine a parking space, how do you feel?" She looked confused by the question. "I don't know, I expect it to be there, it's no big deal." "Exactly," I said. "And when you imagine your dream relationship or financial freedom?" Her entire demeanor changed. Her eyes widened, her breath quickened slightly. "I feel excited," she said. "Sometimes almost too excited to contain it. My heart races. I think this would be so amazing. This would change everything." I studied her for a moment, then asked a simple question. "When you imagine a parking space, how do you feel?" She looked confused by the question. "I don't know. I expect it to be there. It's no big deal." "Exactly," I said. "And when you imagine your dream relationship or financial freedom?" Her entire demeanor changed. Her eyes widened, her breath quickened slightly. "I feel excited," she said. "Sometimes almost too excited to contain it. My heart races. I think this would be so amazing. This would change everything." There, I told her, is your answer. You manifest parking spaces because they feel natural to you. You don't manifest your larger desires because they feel unnatural, extraordinary, almost unbelievable. Your excitement itself betrays your disbelief. She was silent for a long moment. "Are you saying I shouldn't be excited about my desires?" "I'm saying excitement is fine when your desire first appears to you. But if you're still excited about it after weeks or months of imagining it, you haven't made it natural yet. You're still treating it as something special, something outside your normal experience, something that would be amazing if it happened. And that very attitude keeps it from happening." This conversation reveals one of the most misunderstood aspects of manifestation. People think passion, excitement, and intense emotion are the keys to manifesting. They work themselves into ecstatic states, they feel overwhelming desire, they generate tremendous emotional intensity, and then they wonder why their desires don't manifest. The truth is this: intense emotion can help you identify what you want, but naturalness is what allows you to have it. Excitement says, "This would be wonderful if it happened." Naturalness says, "Of course this is mine. What else would it be?" Let me illustrate this with a story that demonstrates the power of naturalness perfectly. A young man came to study with me, desperate to become a successful writer. He had talent, certainly. He had dedication. He wrote every day, imagined his success every night, visualized his name on bestseller lists, felt the joy of critical acclaim. But month after month, year after year, rejection letters piled up. His work was never quite good enough. Publishers weren't interested. Agents didn't respond. One day, in frustration, he said to me, "Neville, I've done everything you teach. I imagine my success constantly. I feel it deeply. Why doesn't it manifest? Tell me," I said. "How does a successful writer feel to you?" His eyes lit up. Accomplished, validated, finally proven. It would feel like I've made it, like all my struggles were worth it, like I stopped him. That's your problem right there. You're imagining being a successful writer as something that would prove you, validate you, elevate you. To you, being a successful writer is special, extraordinary, a transformation of who you currently are. But it would be, he protested. And that's why it isn't, I replied. Tell me, how do you feel about your ability to read? He looked puzzled. I don't understand. I read. It's natural. I've been reading since I was a child. Exactly. You don't imagine being able to read as special or extraordinary. You don't wake up excited that you can read. You don't feel you need to prove you can read. You simply read naturally because it's who you are. That's the feeling you need about being a successful writer. I could see him struggling with this concept. But how can I feel natural about something I'm not yet? Oh, I said, there's your second problem. You believe you're not yet a successful writer. But in consciousness, the only reality, you can be a successful writer right now. Not trying to become one, not hoping to be one, but being one naturally as you're currently a reader. I gave him a specific practice. For the next month, I told him, stop imagining your success as a future event. Stop feeling excited about what it will be like when you make it. Instead, assume you've been a successful writer for years. Imagine the ordinariness of it. Imagine checking your book sales the way you currently check your email, routinely, without drama. Imagine interviews and book signings as just part of your normal working life. Make success feel boring, natural, taken for granted. He looked at me as if I'd lost my mind. Make success feel boring. Not boring in a negative sense. I clarified. Natural. The way breathing is natural. The way your heartbeat is natural. The way your ability to read is natural. Success should feel so normal to you that it would be strange not to have it. This young man took my advice seriously. Over the next months, I watched a subtle but profound transformation occur in him. He stopped talking about his dreams with breathless excitement. He stopped imagining success as this miraculous future event. Instead, he began to carry himself as someone for whom success was simply normal. His writing improved, not because he tried harder, but because he wrote from a different consciousness. He submitted his work differently. Not desperately hoping for acceptance, but naturally expecting it. He spoke about his writing career differently, not as a dream he was chasing, but as a reality he was living. Within 6 months, he had his first book deal. Within 2 years, he had 3 published books and a growing readership. But here's what fascinated me. By the time his success manifested physically, he wasn't surprised or excited. He felt it was natural, obvious, exactly what should be happening. That's how you know naturalness has been achieved. when the manifestation feels inevitable rather than miraculous. But how do you cultivate this feeling of naturalness? How do you make the extraordinary feel ordinary? How do you take something you desperately want and make it feel like something you simply have? First, you must understand that naturalness comes from familiarity. Things feel natural when they're familiar, when you've experienced them often, when they're part of your regular existence. This is why I teach people to imagine their desire fulfilled, not once, not in one glorious imaginal act, but repeatedly until it becomes familiar. Imagine it so many times that it becomes boring. Imagine it so consistently that it loses its charge, its excitement, its special quality. When you first imagine your desire fulfilled, it's thrilling. Your heart races. Every detail seems precious and meaningful. This is natural. You're encountering something new in consciousness. But if you persist, if you imagine this same scene night after night, something remarkable happens. The thrill fades. The excitement diminishes. The scene becomes familiar, routine, ordinary. And this is exactly what you want. When your desire feels ordinary in imagination, it's ready to become ordinary in manifestation. A businessman once told me about his experience with this principle. He wanted to expand his small company into a major enterprise, but whenever he imagined this expansion, he felt overwhelmed with excitement and barely contained nervousness. It feels too big, he told me, too impossible. Every time I imagine owning a major company, I feel like I'm pretending to be someone I'm not. I instructed him to imagine not the moment of expansion, not the drama of growth, but simply the ordinary, day-to-day experience of being the owner of a large company. Imagine the routine of it, I said. Imagine answering emails, attending meetings, making decisions, all from the consciousness of someone for whom running a major company is perfectly normal. At first he found this difficult. His mind wanted the drama, the excitement, the specialness of success. But I insisted, make it boring, make it routine. Imagine it until you could do it in your sleep. He followed this practice faithfully. Night after night, he imagined the ordinary activities of running a major company. Gradually, what had felt impossible began to feel possible. What had felt extraordinary began to feel ordinary. What had felt unnatural began to feel natural. The transformation in his actual business was remarkable. As his consciousness of being a major company owner became natural, his decisions changed. His behavior changed. His very presence changed. He began to naturally act in ways that someone running a major company would act. Within 18 months, his small company had grown into exactly the major enterprise he had been imagining. But by that time, it felt completely natural to him. He told me, "The strange thing is, I can barely remember when running a large company felt unusual. Now it just feels like who I am." This is the power of naturalness. When something feels natural to you in consciousness, it must manifest in your world, because consciousness is the only reality. But I must warn you about something that trips up many students. They try to force naturalness. They try to convince themselves that something feels natural when it doesn't. This doesn't work because consciousness cannot be fooled. True naturalness isn't an act you put on. It's a genuine feeling that develops through persistent imagining. You can't fake it, but you can cultivate it. Here's the key. You cultivate naturalness by removing the charge from your desire. Most people charge their desires with desperation, need, hope, excitement, or fear. All of these emotional charges keep the desire at arm's length, marking it as something special, something other, something not yet possessed. To remove the charge, you must imagine your desire so consistently that it becomes mundane. Imagine it until the thrill wears off. Imagine it until it's no longer exciting. Imagine it until it's just normal. Think about something you have that you once desperately wanted. Perhaps your current home, or your car, or your relationship, or your job. Remember how exciting it was when you first got it. Remember how you couldn't believe it was yours. Remember how special it felt. And now it's just your home, your car, your relationship, your job. It's familiar. It's normal. You don't wake up every morning marveling that you have it. It's simply part of your life. That's naturalness. And that's the feeling you want to cultivate about your desires before they manifest physically. A woman once told me about her experience manifesting marriage to a specific man. For months, she said, I imagined our wedding day. I felt the excitement, the joy, the thrill of finally being his wife. But nothing happened. He seemed no closer to proposing than when I started. Then one night, she continued, I was exhausted from imagining. I lay in bed, and almost without thinking, I imagined us in bed together, not on our honeymoon, but years into our marriage. I imagined it being so ordinary, so familiar, that I barely noticed it. I fell asleep from the sheer ordinariness of it. The next morning, something had shifted in me. When I saw him, I didn't feel the desperate hope I usually felt. I felt calm, natural, as if we were already married, and this was just another day. Within 2 weeks, he proposed. Within 3 months, we were married. But here's the interesting part, she concluded. By the time we actually got married, it didn't feel like a big event to me emotionally. It felt right, natural, inevitable, like something that had already happened long ago and we were just making it official. This is the ultimate sign that you've achieved naturalness. When your desire manifests, it feels obvious rather than miraculous. Now let me share with you a technique I've used successfully many times. I call it the boring technique, though there's nothing boring about its results. Choose your desire, whatever it is you want to manifest. Now instead of imagining the exciting moment of getting it, imagine the most ordinary, mundane moment of having it. Imagine the boring, routine, everyday experience of living with your desire fulfilled. If you want wealth, don't imagine winning the lottery or receiving a windfall. Imagine casually paying a bill, glancing at your bank balance without concern, or making a routine purchase without checking the price. If you want love, don't imagine the first kiss or the proposal. Imagine a quiet Tuesday evening, doing something ordinary together, feeling the comfortable familiarity of being loved. If you want success, don't imagine the award ceremony or the moment of recognition. Imagine a regular workday, doing what you love, it being perfectly normal and expected. The more ordinary, the more mundane, the more boring your imaginal act, the more powerful it is. Because ordinariness equals naturalness, and naturalness equals manifestation. I remember when I was manifesting my teaching career, I didn't imagine standing before large crowds receiving thunderous applause. Instead, I imagined sitting in a quiet room, preparing for a lecture the way a teacher who had been teaching for years would prepare, routinely, naturally, without drama. I imagined answering letters from students. I imagined the ordinary work of teaching. I imagined it until it felt completely natural, until it would have felt strange not to be teaching. By the time I actually stood before my first audience, it felt like I had been doing it for years. There was no nervousness, no sense of impossibility, no feeling that I was doing something extraordinary. It felt natural, and because it felt natural, it unfolded naturally. Here's another crucial aspect of naturalness that many overlook. Naturalness extends to how you relate to waiting. When something is natural to you, you don't anxiously wait for it. You don't desperately check for signs of it. You don't worry about when it will appear. Think about something you know will naturally occur. Perhaps you know the sun will rise tomorrow, or you know spring will follow winter, or you know you'll be hungry at mealtime. Do you anxiously wait for these things? Do you worry they might not happen? No, because they're natural to you. This is how you must relate to your desire, not anxiously waiting for it to arrive, but naturally knowing it will manifest because it's already yours in consciousness. A gentleman once asked me, "But Neville, how can I feel natural about something that hasn't happened yet? Doesn't that require denial of current reality?" I replied, "You're thinking of naturalness as a relationship with physical circumstances. But true naturalness is a relationship with consciousness. In consciousness, your desire is already fulfilled. Making that fulfillment feel natural in consciousness is not denial, it's recognition of the only reality that exists. Think of it this way," I continued. Before you learned to read, reading felt unnatural, impossible. But someone who could read knew it was natural. The naturalness wasn't about current ability, it was about consciousness. Now that you can read, reading feels utterly natural. Has reading itself changed? No, your consciousness of reading has changed. Your desire is the same, I concluded. It doesn't feel natural now because your consciousness of it is still treating it as special, future, other. But in consciousness, it can be natural right now. And once it's natural in consciousness, it must become natural in experience. Let me share one final story that illustrates the ultimate power of naturalness. Years ago, I knew a woman who wanted to move from a small apartment to a beautiful house by the ocean. Her current circumstances made this seem impossible. She had modest income, no savings for a down payment, and housing by the ocean was extremely expensive in her area. Most people would have imagined winning the lottery, receiving an inheritance, or some other dramatic intervention. But this woman understood naturalness. Instead, she began to imagine the most ordinary moment she could think of in her oceanside home, making coffee in the morning and glancing out at the water. That's all. No drama, no excitement. Just making coffee, glancing at the ocean, it being perfectly normal and natural that she lived there. She imagined this scene every morning for months. She told me it became so familiar that sometimes she'd wake up and for a brief moment expect to see the ocean before remembering she was still in her apartment. Within a year, through a series of events that seemed remarkable to others, but felt natural to her, she was living in that house by the ocean. And when she invited me to visit, I watched her make coffee and glance at the ocean with such casual familiarity that you'd think she'd been doing it for 20 years. The strange thing, she told me, is that I can't remember when this felt unusual. It just feels like where I've always belonged. That, my friends, is the power of naturalness. When your desire becomes so natural in consciousness that it would feel strange not to have it, that's when it manifests. Not before, not through force or effort, but through the irresistible power of naturalness itself. So tonight I invite you to examine your desires. Which ones are you holding at arm's length with excitement, hope, or desperation? Which ones are you treating as special, extraordinary, miraculous? Those are the ones you need to make natural. Those are the ones you need to imagine not as future possibilities, but as present realities. Those are the ones you need to strip of their charge and their drama and their specialness. Make them boring. Make them ordinary. Make them natural. Imagine them until they feel so familiar that it would be strange not to have them. When naturalness becomes your dwelling place, manifestation becomes your inevitable experience. Not through struggle, not through effort, not through hope or prayer, but through the simple, natural, inevitable unfolding of consciousness into form. The feeling of naturalness, this is the secret. Cultivate it, dwell in it, make it your home. And watch as everything you desire becomes not a miracle, but simply the natural expression of who you are. As always, thank you for joining me on this journey into the depths of consciousness. Remember, you are not here by accident. You are here because your soul is ready for this truth. Take these teachings and let them transform not just your mind, but your entire reality. Until we meet again in consciousness, keep assuming your greatness and living from the end of your desires. This is Best of Lectures, and you are the operant power in your world. I'll see you in the next video.
Hello and welcome back to the series. In the previous episode, you've learned that wealth exists in consciousness first, and that there's a parallel reality where you're already abundantly wealthy. Now comes the most crucial question. How do you actually access that wealth and bring it into your lived experience? The answer lies in understanding and applying the law of assumption, the most powerful principle for deliberately creating your financial reality. This isn't just another manifestation technique. This is the fundamental law that governs how consciousness creates form. Most people approach wealth creation from a state of hoping, wishing, or wanting. They hope they'll get a raise, wish they could afford their dream house, or want to become financially free someday. While these desires aren't wrong, they actually reinforce the very lack they're trying to overcome. Here's why. When you hope, wish, or want something, you're unconsciously affirming that you don't currently have it. You're operating from a consciousness of lack, and the law of assumption responds by creating more experiences of lacking what you desire. An assumption is completely different from hope or desire. An assumption is a mental state you accept as true, regardless of current evidence to the contrary. When you assume something, you're not hoping it will happen. You're accepting that it's already true in consciousness, and therefore must eventually manifest in experience. Let's look at the practical difference. Hoping, wishing, wanting consciousness sounds like this. I hope I'll be wealthy someday. I wish I could afford that. I want to be financially free. Maybe if I work hard enough, I'll try to manifest money. Assumption consciousness sounds like this. I am wealthy. Money flows to me naturally. Financial abundance is my normal state. Of course, I can afford what I desire. Wealth is simply who I am. Feel the difference between these two states. Hope and wishing carry an energy of separation and lack. Assumption carries an energy of certainty and possession. The power of an assumption lies not in its repetition, but in your conviction. A single assumption, held with complete conviction, will manifest faster than 1,000 affirmations spoken without real belief. Conviction isn't something you work up to. It's something you choose. You can choose to be as convinced of your wealth as you are of your own name. The only difference is that you've had more practice assuming your name than assuming your wealth. This distinction is so important that it deserves its own section. Most people are trapped in wanting money consciousness, not realizing that this very wanting is what keeps money away from them. When you want money, you're unconsciously affirming several limiting beliefs. I don't have enough money. Money is separate from me. I am in a state of lack. My wealth depends on external circumstances. The universe, or the law of assumption, is always saying yes to your dominant consciousness. When your dominant consciousness is I want money, the universe says yes, by giving you more experiences of wanting money, not experiences of having money. This is why people can spend years trying to manifest money without significant results. They're manifesting perfectly. They're just manifesting the experience of wanting money rather than the experience of having it. Being wealthy is an entirely different consciousness. When you assume the state of being wealthy, you feel abundant regardless of your current bank balance. You make decisions from wealth consciousness. You expect money to flow to you naturally. You're generous because you know abundance is infinite. You feel worthy of prosperity and success. This isn't about pretending or acting. This is about recognizing that wealth is fundamentally a state of consciousness, not a bank balance. When you consistently occupy the consciousness of wealth, your bank balance must eventually match your consciousness. The shift from wanting money to being wealthy is fundamentally an identity shift. Instead of seeing yourself as someone who needs to get wealthy, you see yourself as someone who is wealthy. You're just waiting for the external world to catch up with your inner reality. This identity shift changes everything. Your thoughts change. Instead of thinking, how can I get money? You think, how shall I use my abundance? Your feelings change. Instead of anxiety about money, you feel secure and provided for. Your actions change. You make decisions from abundance rather than scarcity. Your relationships change. People respond to your wealth consciousness. Your opportunities change. You notice and attract wealth-building possibilities. Now let's explore the mechanics of how assumptions actually create your financial reality. Understanding this process removes the mystery from wealth creation and gives you precise control over your financial future. Your assumptions about money create a continuous feedback loop that shapes your financial experience. First comes assumption. You hold a deep belief about money, conscious or unconscious. This influences your perception. The assumption filters what you notice and ignore in your environment. This changes your emotion. The perception generates emotions that match the belief. These emotions drive actions that align with your emotional state. Your actions create results that confirm the original assumption. You get reinforcement. The results strengthen the assumption, continuing the cycle. Let's see how this works with both limiting and empowering assumptions. Limiting assumption cycle. Assumption, money is hard to come by. Perception, you notice obstacles, problems, and evidence of financial difficulty. Emotion, you feel stressed, worried, and insecure about money. Action, you make decisions from fear, work harder for less, avoid risks. Results, you struggle financially, money feels difficult to earn. Reinforcement, see, I was right. Money is hard to come by. Now let's see an empowering assumption cycle. Assumption, money flows to me easily. Perception, you notice opportunities, resources, and evidence of abundance. Emotion, you feel confident, expectant, and secure about money. Action, you make decisions from abundance. Take inspired action. Embrace opportunities. Results, money comes to you through various channels with apparent ease. Reinforcement, of course, money does flow to me easily. The law of assumption responds to persistence, not intensity. A moderate assumption held consistently will manifest more reliably than an intense assumption held sporadically. This is why it's better to assume a state of general abundance throughout your day than to do intense visualization sessions once in a while. Your continuous background assumptions are far more powerful than your peak manifestation moments. Think of it like training a muscle. Consistent, moderate exercise over time builds more strength than occasional intense workouts. Similarly, consistent wealth consciousness builds more manifesting power than sporadic bursts of positive thinking. One of the most important principles to understand is that assumptions are more powerful than circumstances. Your current financial circumstances are the result of your past assumptions. Your current assumptions are creating your future circumstances. This means you never need to wait for circumstances to change before you can assume wealth. In fact, waiting for circumstances to change keeps you trapped in the old assumption that created those circumstances in the first place. Instead, you assume wealth consciousness now, regardless of current circumstances, and allow the circumstances to change in response to your new assumption. Most people are trapped in limitation consciousness when it comes to money. This consciousness operates like a self-perpetuating system that keeps them financially stuck, despite their best efforts to change their situation. Before you can change your assumptions, you need to identify what they currently are. Many of your most powerful assumptions about money operate unconsciously, so this requires some detective work. Here's how to identify your current money assumptions. Look at your results. Your current financial situation is a perfect reflection of your dominant money assumptions. If you're struggling, you have assumptions about struggle. If you're comfortable but not wealthy, you have assumptions about limitation. Notice your emotional responses. Pay attention to how you feel when you think about money. Do you feel anxious, excited, guilty, worthy, afraid, confident? Your emotions reveal your assumptions. Observe your inner dialogue. What do you say to yourself about money? I can't afford that. Money doesn't grow on trees. Rich people are greedy. I have to work hard for money. These phrases reveal limiting assumptions. Watch your reactions. How do you react when you see expensive things? When bills arrive? When others talk about money? When opportunities arise? Your reactions reveal your assumptions. Here are some of the most common limiting assumptions that keep people financially stuck. Number 1, scarcity assumptions. There's not enough money to go around. If I have more, someone else has less. Money is limited and scarce. I have to compete for financial resources. Number 2, unworthiness assumptions. I don't deserve to be wealthy. Wealth is for other people, not me. I'm not smart, talented, lucky enough to be rich. Good people don't focus on money. Number 3, difficulty assumptions. Money is the root of all evil. You have to work hard for every dollar. Making money requires sacrifice. Wealth comes at the expense of happiness, relationships, or health. Number 4, identity assumptions. I'm just not a money person. I come from a poor family, so I'll always struggle. Creative or spiritual people aren't good with money. I'm destined to be middle class. Breaking free from limitation consciousness isn't about fighting your limiting beliefs. It's about replacing them with empowering assumptions. Here's the process. Step 1. Clearly identify the specific assumption that's creating your financial limitation. Step 2. For every limiting assumption, create its empowering opposite. For example, money is scarce. Money is abundant and infinite. I don't deserve wealth. I deserve unlimited abundance. Money is hard to earn. Money flows to me effortlessly. I'm bad with money. I'm naturally wealthy and abundant. Step 3. Embody the new assumption. Don't just think the new assumption, embody it. Feel what it would be like if this assumption were absolutely true. How would you feel? How would you move through the world? Step 4. Live from the new assumption. Make decisions, take actions, and respond to situations from your new assumption rather than your old one. This is where the real change happens. Step 5. Persist despite evidence. Continue to embody your new assumption even when external circumstances seem to contradict it. Remember, circumstances are following consciousness, not leading it. When you change your fundamental assumptions about money, you set in motion what Neville Goddard called a bridge of incidents, a series of events, encounters, and opportunities that will lead to the manifestation of your new assumption. These incidents might seem natural and logical in retrospect, but they're actually the universe reorganizing itself to match your new consciousness. Your job is to maintain your new assumption regardless of what appears to be happening. Stay alert to opportunities that align with your wealth consciousness. Take inspired action when opportunities present themselves. And trust the process even when you can't see the full picture. An assumption becomes fact through a process called hardening. When you first adopt a new assumption, it might feel soft or tentative. But as you persist with it, it gradually hardens into unshakable conviction. And once it hardens, it must manifest as fact in your experience. The hardening process happens through repetition, consistently returning to your wealth assumption, emotionally embodying the assumption until it feels natural, making decisions from the assumption until it becomes automatic, and persistence, maintaining the assumption despite contradictory appearances. As we conclude this chapter, it's time for you to consciously choose your new wealth assumption. This isn't just an intellectual exercise. This is you literally choosing your financial future. Here are some powerful wealth assumptions to consider. I am wealthy and abundant in all areas of my life. Money flows to me easily from multiple sources. I am worthy of unlimited financial abundance. Wealth is my natural state of being. I effortlessly attract opportunities for financial growth. Money is my friend and ally. I am financially free and secure. Abundance is my birthright. Choose the assumption that resonates most deeply with you, or create your own. The specific words matter less than your conviction in the assumption. Starting now, your practice is simple but profound. Choose your wealth assumption and write it down. Feel into the assumption several times throughout each day. Make decisions from the assumption rather than from your circumstances. Persist with the assumption regardless of what appears to be happening. Expect evidence of your assumption to show up in your experience. Remember, an assumption, though it may seem false based on current circumstances, if persisted in, will harden into fact. Your wealth assumption isn't wishful thinking. It's the most practical thing you can do to create lasting financial abundance. The law of assumption is not a theory. It's the fundamental principle by which consciousness creates reality. When you truly understand and apply this law to your wealth creation, you'll discover that becoming wealthy isn't about changing your external circumstances. It's about changing your internal assumptions. Your wealthy self already exists in consciousness. Your wealth assumption is how you claim that reality and bring it into your lived experience.
Good evening, my friends. Tonight I want to address something that I see destroying more manifestations than doubt, more dreams than fear, and more possibilities than disbelief combined. It is the desperate, anxious, violent energy of forcing. Perhaps you are listening to me now and you feel a certain weariness, a spiritual exhaustion. You have done everything I have taught you to do. You have affirmed, you have visualized, you have walked in the assumption of your wish fulfilled as best you know how. And yet your desire remains at a distance. Perhaps it even feels further away now than when you first began. Maybe it is money that seems to slip through your fingers no matter how tightly you grasp. A relationship that refuses to blossom, no matter how hard you chase. A career that feels stuck, no matter how desperately you push. You chase, and it flees. You push, and it resists. You tighten your grip, and it dissolves like smoke between your fingers. What if I told you that the very effort you are applying is the only thing standing in your way? That the immense energy you are using to force your desire into being is the very reason it has not yet arrived. Tonight we will explore this delicate and most powerful art, the art of allowing. I will show you why letting go is not the same as giving up, but is in fact the highest form of faith. And I will teach you what to do instead of forcing, to finally let what you desire come to you as effortlessly and naturally as the sun rises in the morning. To understand why your intense effort may be failing you, you must first understand a strange and wonderful paradox that I have taught for years. When your will and your imagination are in conflict, your imagination will always win. The harder you try to consciously force a state with your will, while your imagination is convinced of its opposite, the more you amplify the very state you are trying to escape. Think of it like this. Imagine you are holding a cork underwater. The more you push it down, the more you feel its powerful urge to rise. The pressure builds, your effort increases, and the moment you release even slightly, it shoots to the surface with tremendous force. Your feeling of lack, your deep-seated belief that you do not have your desire, that is the cork. Your frantic effort is the force holding it down, constantly reminding you of its buoyancy, of its reality in your world. Let me tell you about a woman who came to me last year. She had been trying to manifest a specific amount of money for 6 months. Every day she visualized. Every night she affirmed. Every moment she tried to feel wealthy. But the money did not come. In fact, her financial situation was getting worse. Neville, she said, I'm doing everything you teach. I'm visualizing constantly. I'm affirming all day long. I'm forcing myself to feel abundant even when my bank account is empty. Why isn't it working? I watched her as she spoke, and I could see the tension in her body, hear the strain in her voice, feel the desperate energy radiating from her. She was like a coiled spring, wound so tight she was about to break. I said to her, my dear, you are not feeling abundant. You are forcing yourself to pretend you feel abundant. And there is a universe of difference between the two. Every time you force yourself to feel wealthy while your entire being screams, I am poor, you are actually reinforcing your poverty. You are broadcasting the frequency of lack with every strained affirmation. She looked confused. So I explained. You must understand that every feeling you entertain radiates a specific frequency. It is a broadcast. The frequency of lack is charged with anxiety, impatience, and the frantic energy of need. The frequency of fulfillment is one of peace, satisfaction, and quiet gratitude. Your effort, born of strain and force, is simply a prolonged broadcast of the frequency of lack. Think of the biblical story of Peter attempting to walk upon the water. As long as his attention was fixed upon his goal, upon the Master, he did the impossible. He defied the laws of the physical world. But the moment he looked away, the moment he saw the winds and the waves, the facts of his three-dimensional reality, doubt entered his mind. He began to sink, and in that moment of fear he began to try. He began to force himself to stay afloat, to fight against the evidence of his senses. And the more he struggled against the storm, the faster he sank. His success came from a state of calm assumption. His failure came from a state of effort born of fear. That story is your story. Your desire is the Master calling to you. The winds and the waves are the doubts and contradictory facts of your current life. To struggle with them, to force against them, is to sink. Forcing is an admission to yourself that you are not in the state of the wish fulfilled. For if you truly were the person who had your desire, would you be struggling to obtain it? Would you be fighting for it? Would you be anxiously checking for signs of its arrival? No. You would be at peace. You would feel a quiet confidence. The feeling would be natural, effortless, as simple as breathing. So you see, the goal is not to try harder. The goal is to feel it differently. To feel it as normal, as simple, as natural as the air you breathe. So then, how does one cultivate this feeling of naturalness? How does one move from the violent energy of forcing to the quiet confidence of allowing? It is not accomplished by a grand single action, but by a series of subtle internal shifts. Let me share them with you now. The first shift is from getting to being. Your true work is not to acquire the thing you desire. It is to become, in imagination, the person who already has it. If you desire wealth, you do not spend your day anxiously chasing money, desperately trying to force abundance into your life. Instead, you ask yourself, what would my inner conversations be like if I were already wealthy? How would I see the world? What assumptions would I hold as true? How would I move through my day? Then you begin to think from that state. You are no longer a poor person wanting wealth. You are a wealthy person simply living your life. The difference is subtle but profound. I remember a businessman who came to me struggling with this exact issue. He had been trying to manifest a major business deal for months. Every day he visualized the contract signing. Every night he affirmed his success. But the deal kept slipping away. I asked him, "When you visualize this deal, what are you feeling?" He said, "Honestly, I feel desperate. I need this deal. Without it, my business might fail. So I'm forcing myself to see it happening. Forcing myself to believe it will work out." "There is your problem," I told him. "You are visualizing from the state of a desperate man who needs a deal to survive. But a successful businessman who has closed major deals before does not feel desperate. He feels confident, calm, assured. You must become that man in your imagination, not try to force that man into existence through strain and effort." I taught him to stop visualizing the moment of getting the deal, and instead to simply assume he was already the kind of businessman for whom such deals were natural and normal. To think from success rather than about success. Within 3 weeks, not only did that deal close, but 2 other unexpected opportunities appeared. He had stopped forcing and started allowing by becoming the person who naturally attracted such success. The second shift is understanding what it truly means to live in the end. Many of you have been taught that living in the end means constant, effortful visualization. It does not. Living in the end is a state of satisfaction. Think of how you feel after a wonderful meal. You do not continue to stare at the menu anxiously, hoping for food to arrive. You do not force yourself to feel full while your stomach is empty. You are satisfied. You are at peace. The meal is finished. That quiet satisfaction, that inner knowing that it is done, that is the true feeling of the wish fulfilled. Your imaginal act, your brief scene, implying your desire is fulfilled. That is the meal. And satisfaction is the state you must carry throughout your day. I knew a woman who wanted to marry a particular man. For months she visualized their wedding over and over again, multiple times per day, forcing herself to see every detail, straining to make it feel real. But he showed no signs of proposing. In fact, their relationship seemed to be growing more distant. When she came to me, I asked her, "After you finish visualizing your wedding, how do you feel?" She said, "I feel anxious that it hasn't happened yet. I feel worried that I'm not doing it right. I feel desperate to do it again to make sure it works." I explained to her that these feelings were the problem. You are treating your imaginal act like a task you must perform perfectly and repeatedly. But the imaginal act is meant to produce a feeling of satisfaction, the feeling that it is already done. Once you have felt that satisfaction, you should be able to rest in it like a person who has eaten a good meal. I taught her to do her imaginal scene once, at night before sleep, and then to simply carry the satisfied feeling throughout her day. To feel like a woman who was already engaged, already loved, already claimed. Not to force this feeling, but to gently assume it as her natural state. Within 2 months he proposed. She had stopped forcing the outcome and started allowing it by resting in the satisfaction of the wish fulfilled. The third shift is discovering the secret of present moment fulfillment. All desperation springs from the feeling that something is missing now. The remedy is to feel fulfillment in this moment, even before your desire appears in physical form. This does not mean denying that you want something. It means finding fulfillment in your present moment so that you are not desperately grasping for the future to be different. At the end of each day, find one thing, anything, for which you can feel genuine gratitude. The kind words someone spoke, a moment of beauty you witnessed, the comfort of your bed, the warmth of the sun on your face. By practicing the feeling of gratitude, you are practicing the feeling of fulfillment. And when you can find fulfillment in your present moment, you release the desperate need for the future to be different. In that release, the future is suddenly free to become what you have imagined. I remember a man who was desperately trying to manifest healing in his body. He was sick, in pain, and growing more anxious by the day. Every visualization of health was tainted with the desperate energy of "I must get well or I will suffer forever." I taught him to find one thing each day for which he was genuinely grateful. perhaps a moment when the pain lessened, or the kindness of a nurse, or the beauty of clouds outside his window. This practice gradually shifted him from the frequency of desperate lack to the frequency of grateful fulfillment. As he learned to feel fulfillment in his present moments, the desperate grasping for future health dissolved. And in that dissolution, his body began to heal in ways that surprised even his doctors. He had allowed healing by releasing the force of desperation. The fourth shift is building a mental sanctuary. This is a short, simple, imaginal scene that implies your wish is already fulfilled. Not the moment of receiving it, but a moment after. A moment that would only exist if your desire were already a fact. If you desire marriage, your scene could be as simple as feeling the weight of a wedding ring on your finger while washing your hands. If you desire career success, it could be a brief congratulatory conversation with a friend who says, "I always knew you would do it." This scene is your anchor. When the storms of doubt arise in your day, you do not fight the doubt. Fighting doubt only gives it more power. Instead, you simply retreat to your mental sanctuary for a few seconds, feel it real, and return to your day with faith restored. This is not forcing. This is gently reminding yourself of the truth you have chosen to live from. Now, a word of caution to keep you from undoing all your good work. First, you must resist the impulse to anxiously look for your desire in your outer world. Every time you check for proof with anxiety in your heart, you are performing a powerful imaginal act of doubt. You are impressing upon your subconscious the feeling that it is not here yet. And your subconscious, unfailingly loyal, accepts that feeling as your new command and creates more experiences of not here yet. Think of a baker who has placed a cake in the oven. He has done his part. He mixed the ingredients, poured the batter, set the temperature. Now he must trust the process. He does not open the oven door every 2 minutes to see if it has risen. To do so would let out the heat and ruin the cake. Your sustained assumption, your faith, is the heat that bakes your desire into reality. Once you have placed it in the oven of your imagination, you must leave the door closed. You must trust the process. I knew a woman who was manifesting a new home. She did her imaginal act beautifully. She felt herself in the home, walking through the rooms, feeling the satisfaction of ownership. But every day she would anxiously check real estate listings, desperately searching for signs that a home was coming. Each time she searched with anxiety, she was impressing her subconscious with lack rather than fulfillment. I told her, "You are baking a cake and opening the oven door every 5 minutes. You must trust that the process is working. Check listings if you feel inspired to do so, from a state of calm curiosity, but never from desperate anxiety." She learned to do her imaginal act at night, feel the satisfaction, and then go about her day without anxiously checking. Within a month, the perfect home appeared through an unexpected connection, not through her anxious searching. Second, do not discuss your desire with those who are not in sympathy with your aim. Your imaginal act is a tender new creation, a new state of consciousness. Exposing it to the cold winds of doubt and ridicule can chill your conviction, causing you to doubt your own creation. Keep your secret. Let it grow strong within you until it is ready to be born as a fact in your world. So what does this state of true allowing, of genuine detachment, actually feel like? Let me be clear. It is not apathy. It is not indifference. It is not giving up on your desire. In fact, it is the highest and most potent form of faith. It is the calm assurance of the farmer who has planted a seed in good soil. He does not fret. He does not dig it up each day to check if it is growing. He simply knows he has done his part, and the law of growth will do the rest. It is the feeling of having ordered a fine meal at a wonderful restaurant. You do not follow the waiter into the kitchen to make sure the chef is cooking. You simply relax at your table, enjoying the ambience, knowing that in due time your order will be served. It is the same assurance with which you know the sun will rise tomorrow. You do not wake each night in fear, wondering if the dawn will come. You simply know it will, and so you rest. In like manner, you must rest in the certainty of your desire fulfilled. Remember what I have taught you. Creation is finished. Everything that could ever exist already exists in the infinite realm of imagination. What you seek is not something you must create or force into being. It already is. You need only to accept it, to claim it, to assume it as yours. This state is a quiet inner peace, a release of all tension. You can think of your desire and you feel a gentle warmth, a quiet smile, not the anxious, desperate yearning of still wanting it, but the pleasant, familiar feeling of knowing it is already yours. Let me tell you about a final example that perfectly illustrates this state. A young artist came to me who had been desperately trying to manifest recognition for his work. He forced himself to paint every day. He anxiously submitted to every gallery. He checked his email constantly for responses. He was exhausted. His work was suffering, and success seemed further away than ever. I said to him, "You are chasing recognition like a hunter chasing a deer through the forest. The more violently you pursue, the faster it flees. You must become like a fragrant flower standing still in the garden, effortlessly drawing what you desire to you." I taught him to stop forcing his art, and instead to simply be an artist who was already recognized and valued, to create from that state of confidence rather than desperation, to submit his work when inspired, not when anxious, to rest in the assumption that recognition was already his in consciousness, whether or not it had appeared in form. The shift was remarkable. His art became more authentic, more powerful, because it was no longer tainted with the desperate energy of needing validation. Within 6 months, a major gallery discovered his work and offered him a solo exhibition. But by that time, he no longer desperately needed the recognition. He had already claimed it in consciousness, and the external recognition was simply the shadow following the substance. He had moved from being the frantic hunter to becoming the fragrant flower. He had stopped forcing and started allowing. This is the promise of allowing. This is the secret of letting it come. When you reach this state, you have moved from desperate grasping to magnetic attraction. You do not chase, you simply attract. You do not force, you simply allow. You do not struggle. You simply rest in the knowledge that it is done. Your desire is not somewhere in the future, waiting for you to work hard enough to deserve it. It exists right now in the dimension of imagination, and you claim it by assuming the feeling of already having it, not by forcing that feeling, but by gently, naturally, persistently dwelling in it until it becomes as natural as breathing. So tonight, I want you to examine your relationship with your desires. Are you forcing? Are you struggling? Are you desperately trying to make something happen through sheer effort and strain? If so, I invite you to release that grip. Let go of the cork and watch it rise to the surface effortlessly. Plant your seed and trust the law of growth. Order your meal and relax while it is prepared. Assume your desire is already yours in consciousness, and rest in that assumption with the quiet confidence of someone who knows the sun will rise tomorrow. Stop forcing it. Let it come. For in the letting go, you will find that what you have been chasing has been waiting all along for you to simply stop running and allow it to catch up to you. As always, thank you for joining me on this journey into the depths of consciousness. Remember, you are not here by accident. You are here because your soul is ready for this truth. Take these teachings and let them transform not just your mind, but your entire reality. Until we meet again in consciousness, keep assuming your greatness and living from the end of your desires. This is Best of Lectures, and you are the operant power in your world. I'll see you in the next video. Good evening, my friends. You know, I've been teaching this law for many years now. And in all that time, I've watched thousands of you come to these meetings, notebooks in hand, eager to learn the secrets of manifestation. And do you know what I see happening? You're making it so complicated, so unnecessarily difficult. You're buried under techniques, drowning in methods, paralyzed by rules you think you must follow perfectly, or everything will fail. And all the while, the answer, the simple, beautiful, elegant answer, is staring you right in the face, but you can't see it, because you're too busy searching for something more complex. So tonight, I'm going to strip everything away, all the techniques, all the methods, all the elaborate practices. And I'm going to give you the raw truth, the one principle that makes everything else irrelevant. And I promise you, when you finally hear it, I mean really hear it, let it sink into your bones, you're going to laugh. Because it's so simple, so obvious, so absurdly beautifully simple that you'll wonder how you ever missed it. Assume it's done. That's it. That is the law. Not a technique, not a method, not a formula. The law itself. Now, before you dismiss this as too simple, before you think, but wait, I already know that, let me ask you something. If you really knew it, if you truly understood it, would you still be here searching for the perfect technique? Would you still be asking me which method works fastest? Would you still be worried about whether you're doing your visualizations correctly? No, you wouldn't. Because when you really grasp this, when it clicks so deeply that you can't unknow it, everything changes. Every technique becomes optional. Every method becomes flexible. Every rigid rule dissolves. You become free. But most of you aren't free yet. And tonight, I'm going to show you why. I'm going to show you the trap you've fallen into. The mistake that's keeping you from the simple, effortless manifestation that should be your natural state. And then I'm going to give you the key to walk out of that trap forever. So please, put down your notebooks for a moment. Stop trying to memorize. Stop analyzing. Just listen, because what I'm about to tell you could save you years, perhaps decades of unnecessary struggle. Let me show you where most of you are stuck right now. You come to these meetings searching for the perfect method, the right technique, the secret formula that will finally make everything work. And there's nothing wrong with that. I understand. We've all been there. But here's what you're missing. And please listen carefully, because this will save you years of unnecessary struggle. The technique is never the cause. Your consciousness is the cause. Your consciousness, your assumption is the only cause. Always. Now over the years I've taught you many techniques. The state akin to sleep, revision, the thankful heart, living in the end, mental diets. And some of you have taken these techniques and made them into rigid rules. You've turned them into superstitions. I have to loop exactly 3 times, Neville. It only works if I do it at bedtime, right? What if I use the wrong words? Will it still work? No, no, no. You've missed the point entirely. These techniques, SATs, revision, scripting, affirmations, all of them, they're just different doors into the same room. Think of it this way. Imagine a beautiful room. Inside that room is the state of your wish fulfilled. That's where your desire already exists, perfectly formed, waiting for you. Now there are many doors into this room. The SATs door, the revision door, the affirmation door, the scripting door, different doors. But they all lead to the exact same room. And they work when they work, because they successfully accomplish one thing and one thing only. They shift your assumption. That's it. That's the whole mechanism. SATs works not because there's magic in visualizing before sleep. It works because when done correctly, it shifts you into the state of the wish fulfilled. It gets you into that room. Revision works not because you're changing the past. You're not. The past is gone. Revision works because changing how you remember events changes your present assumption about yourself and your world. Affirmations work not because words have power in themselves. They work when and only when they shift your consciousness from the state of wanting to the state of having. Do you see? The technique is the vehicle. The assumption is the destination. And most of you, you're so fixated on the vehicle that you've forgotten where you're trying to go. Let me tell you what I see happening. And please, don't be offended. I'm telling you this because I care about your success. You come to these teachings and you collect techniques like someone collecting stamps. Oh, I know SATs. I know revision. I know mental diet. I know ladder technique. And then you use them desperately, anxiously hoping one of them will work. You do your SATs at night, but while you're doing it, you're thinking, please work. Please let this work. I need this to manifest. What if it doesn't work? Do you see what you're doing? You're using the technique, but you're not in the state. You're not assuming it's done. You're assuming it's not done and hoping the technique will make it done. And because assumption is the only reality, because what you assume must become fact, your assumption of it's not done is what manifests. Not the scene you're visualizing, the state you're actually occupying. Then when nothing happens, what do? You blame the technique. SATs doesn't work for me. Maybe I need something stronger. Maybe I need a different method. No, the technique didn't fail you. You failed to understand what the technique is for. The technique is not the power. You are the power. Your consciousness is the power. Your assumption is the creative force. The technique is just a tool to help you shift your assumption. But if you're using the tool while maintaining the old assumption, the tool can't do anything for you. And then, oh, this breaks my heart when I see it. Then you become rigid, superstitious. You turn these simple practices into elaborate rituals. I must loop exactly 3 times. It only works at bedtime. I have to use these exact words. I have to be lying down. I can't move once I start. And on and on and on with the rules. You've taken a simple principle, assume it's done, and you've buried it under a mountain of superstition. Let me tell you something. I've manifested things while walking down the street, while sitting in a chair, while standing in line at the grocery store. Why? Because I understood that the technique doesn't matter. The state matters. If I can assume it's done, if I can feel it real, if I can occupy that state completely, it will manifest. Period. I don't need perfect conditions. I don't need the right time of day. I don't need to follow a rigid formula. I just need to assume it's done and mean it. And then there are those of you who technique hop. You try SATs for a week. Nothing happens, so you move to revision. You try revision for a few days. Nothing, so you switch to scripting. Scripting doesn't work fast enough, so you try affirmations. Affirmations feel ineffective, so you go back to SATs. But this time you add a new element you read about. Always searching. Always looking for something more powerful. Something that works faster. Something easier. And you know what the tragedy is? You already have everything you need. You don't need a more advanced technique. You don't need a secret method I haven't told you about yet. You need to stop searching for new doors and walk through the one in front of you. Because they all, every single one of them, lead to the same place. A shifted assumption. Pick one. Anyone. Master it by understanding what it's actually doing. Shifting your assumption and you'll never need another. Now here's what saddens me most. In all your searching, in all your technique collecting, in all your rigid rule following and desperate trying, you miss the beautiful simplicity I've been pointing to all along. Assume it's done. That is the law. Not a technique. Not a method. The law itself. Consciousness is the only reality. What you are conscious of being, you are. What you assume to be true becomes true. That's it. That's the entire teaching. Everything else, every technique, every method, every practice I've ever shared is just a different way of helping you do one thing. Shift your assumption from I want it to I have it. From hoping to knowing. From desiring to possessing. From wanting to being. When you truly understand this, when it clicks so deeply that you can't unknow it, everything changes. You stop being enslaved by techniques. You stop worrying about doing them perfectly. You stop searching for the right one, because you finally understand the technique doesn't create. Consciousness creates, and you are consciousness. Let me tell you what happens when this understanding really takes hold. You become free, completely free, free from rigidity. You're no longer bound by rules about exactly how the technique must be performed. You understand that the form doesn't matter, the assumption matters. So you can do your imaginal act sitting in a chair if you want. You can visualize while walking. You can impress your subconscious at noon instead of bedtime. You can loop once or 10 times or not loop at all. Why? Because you know it's not the technique that's creating. It's your assumption. And you can shift your assumption anywhere, anytime, however works best for you in that moment. Free from superstition. You're no longer afraid that missing a night of practice will ruin everything. You're no longer worried that you didn't use the exact right words. You know that consciousness is the only reality. And as long as you're maintaining the assumption of the wish fulfilled, as long as you're in that state, manifestation is inevitable. The particular vehicle you use to get into that state doesn't matter. Free from dependency on methods. This is the big one. When you truly understand that assumption is the law, you realize you don't actually need techniques at all. Oh, they're helpful. They're useful. They make the process easier, especially when you're learning. But you're not dependent on them. You're not helpless without them, because you can shift your assumption right now. This instant. Without closing your eyes. Without lying down. Without any formal practice at all. How? By simply deciding it's done. I accept it as done in consciousness right now. And if you can truly make that assumption, if you can embody that state fully, it will manifest. Guaranteed. The technique was never necessary. It was just training wheels. And now you can ride the bike on your own. And here's how you know when you've really grasped this. You stop asking which technique should I use? Which one is most powerful? Which one will work fastest? and you start asking, what am I assuming right now? And is that assumption aligned with my desire? That shift in question changes everything, because now you're focused on the right thing. Not the method, the state, not the vehicle, the destination, not the technique, the consciousness. You're checking your assumption throughout the day. Am I assuming I have it, or am I assuming I want it? Am I in the state of the wish fulfilled, or am I in the state of hoping it will be fulfilled? And when you catch yourself in the wrong assumption, you don't panic. You don't think, oh no, I'm ruining everything. You just shift, gently, naturally. Oh, I was assuming lack. Let me return to the assumption of having, and you do, and you continue, and the manifestation continues forming. This is mastery, not using the perfect technique, but maintaining the perfect assumption. Now, some of you are still thinking, but I want to learn more advanced techniques. I want the secret methods you haven't shared yet, and I'm telling you as plainly as I can, you don't need more advanced methods. You need a deeper understanding of the one law behind all methods. There is no secret technique I'm holding back. There's no advanced formula that will suddenly make everything easy. There's only this. Consciousness is the only reality, and assumptions harden into facts. Assume it's done. That's the law. That's the whole law. That's the only law. Grasp that principle, really grasp it, deep in your being, and every technique becomes yours to use or not use with full confidence and conviction. You can use SATs if you like. It works beautifully when you understand what it's actually doing. You can use revision if that resonates with you. It's a powerful tool for shifting assumptions about your past and therefore your present. You can affirm, you can script, you can visualize, you can live in the end. Or you can do none of them, because you understand that the technique is not the power. You are the power. The method doesn't create. Your assumption creates. And the instant you assume it's done, truly assume it, not hope it, not want it, but know it's done in consciousness. In that instant, it begins to harden into fact in your world. Here's how you'll know if you've really understood tonight's message. Tomorrow, when you wake up, you won't immediately think, what technique should I do today? How many times should I loop my scene? What's the best method for this desire? Instead, you'll ask yourself, what am I assuming about this situation? Am I assuming it's done, or am I assuming it's still pending? And if you're assuming it's pending, you'll shift. Right there. No technique required. You'll just change your assumption. It's done. I accept it as finished in consciousness. And you'll feel the shift, the relief, the certainty, the peace of knowing. And you'll move through your day from that assumption, not from a technique you performed, but from a state you're occupying. That's when you'll know. You've got it. You've understood. You've moved beyond techniques to the principle behind them all. So this is my gift to you tonight. This understanding. Use the techniques if they help you. I've given them to you because they work. They're effective tools for shifting consciousness. But don't worship them. Don't become enslaved by them. Don't think they're the power. You are the power. Your consciousness is the creative force of your entire world. And all you have to do, the only thing you've ever had to do, is assume your desire is fulfilled. Not hope it will be fulfilled. Not work toward it being fulfilled. Not try to make it be fulfilled. Assume it is fulfilled. Now, already, done. That's it. That's the law. Everything else I've ever taught you is just different ways of helping you do that one simple thing. So tonight when you go home, you can do your SATs if you like. Or you can revise your day. Or you can write in your journal from the end. Or you can repeat your affirmation. But while you're doing it, remember the technique is not creating your reality. Your assumption is, and if you can assume it's done, if you can really feel it done, know it's done, accept it as done in consciousness. You don't need the technique at all. You're already in the state. You're already in that room. The door you came through doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that you're there, in the state of the wish fulfilled. And from that state, manifestation is not a maybe. It's not a hope. It's not a wish. It's a law. Assume it's done. That is the law. Thank you, and good evening. As always, thank you for joining me on this journey into the depths of consciousness. Remember, you are not here by accident. You are here because your soul is ready for this truth. Take these teachings and let them transform not just your mind, but your entire reality. Until we meet again in consciousness, keep assuming your greatness and living from the end of your desires. This is Best of Lectures, and I'll see you in the next video. Good evening, my friends. Tonight I am going to take you on a journey beyond the physical world you think is real. I am going to show you a dimension that exists right now, in this very moment, where every version of your life already exists in perfect completion. This dimension is not somewhere far away. It is not in some distant galaxy or alternate universe. It is here now, accessible to you this very instant. And once you learn to enter this dimension and operate from it, manifestation becomes not just possible, but inevitable and instantaneous. I call this dimension the 5D world, the dimension of infinite possibilities. And tonight you will learn not only that it exists, but how to consciously enter it, navigate it, and bring back from it anything you desire into your physical reality. But I must warn you, what I am about to teach you will shatter everything you thought you knew about reality, time, space, and your own power as a conscious creator. Are you ready to leave behind the limitations of the 3D world and step into the infinite? Then let us begin. Now, before we can understand the 5D world, you must first understand the prison that most people live in without even knowing it. This prison has 3 dimensions, and it is so convincing, so seemingly solid, that billions of people never even question its walls. The first dimension is the dimension of physical form. This is the world of matter, of solid objects, of bodies and buildings, and all the things you can touch with your hands. Most people believe this is the only real dimension, that what you can see and touch is all that exists. The second dimension is the dimension of linear time. In this dimension, time moves in only one direction, from past through present to future. You believe you are trapped in this timeline, that yesterday is gone forever and tomorrow has not yet arrived. You believe you must wait for things to happen, that change takes time, that your past determines your future. The third dimension is the dimension of apparent causation. In this dimension, things seem to happen because of external causes. You are poor because of the economy. You are sick because of genetics. You are alone because you have not met the right person. Everything appears to be caused by something outside of you. These 3 dimensions together create what I call the 3D world. And in the 3D world, you are powerless. You are a victim of circumstances. You are subject to the laws of physics, the passage of time, and the actions of other people. You are trapped, limited, and struggling. But here is the truth that will set you free. The 3D world is not the primary reality. It is the shadow, the reflection, the effect. It is what appears when you do not know about the higher dimensions. Now, between the 3D world of physical limitation and the 5D world of infinite possibility lies a bridge. This bridge is what I call the 4D world, the dimension of imagination. In the 4D world, you are no longer bound by physical form. You can be anywhere, be anyone, have anything in an instant. In your imagination, you can be wealthy. You can be loved. You can experience any version of reality you choose. Most people visit the 4D world constantly, but they dismiss it as just imagination, as fantasy, as unreal. They think that their nighttime dreams and their daydreams are meaningless, that only the solid 3D world is real. But I tell you, the 4D world is more real than the 3D world, because the 4D world is where creation happens. Everything that exists in the 3D world was first created in the 4D world of imagination. The chair you sit in, the building you occupy, the house you live in, all of it existed first as imagination before it became physical form. Someone imagined it, and then the 3D world materialized it. But here is what most people do not understand. The 4D world is not just a place to daydream. It is the creative workshop where you can consciously design your reality before it appears in the 3D world. When you learn to use the 4D world intentionally, when you understand that your imagination is not fantasy but the actual mechanism of creation, you begin to have power over your 3D circumstances. But even the 4D world is not the ultimate reality. Beyond the 4D world of imagination lies something far more profound, far more powerful. This is the 5D world, the dimension where all possibilities exist simultaneously in eternal completion. The 5D world is unlike anything you have experienced in the 3D or 4D realms. In the 5D world, there is no time, there is no space, there is no becoming, only being. There is no future to wait for, no past to regret. There is only the eternal now where all things already are. In the 5D world, every possible version of your life exists right now. The wealthy version of you is there. The healthy version of you is there. The loved, successful, fulfilled version of you is there. Not as potential, not as possibility, but as already accomplished reality. Think of the 5D world like a vast library containing every book that could ever be written. Every story, every outcome, every version of your life is a book on the shelf, complete and finished. You are not writing these books. They already exist. Your job is simply to select which book you will read, which reality you will experience. In the 3D world, you believe you must create your desires, that you must work to bring them into existence. In the 4D world, you use imagination to design what you want. But in the 5D world, you simply recognize that what you desire already exists in perfect completion, and you claim it as your reality. This is the great secret. You are not creating anything. You are selecting from infinite pre-existing possibilities. You are not manifesting. You are choosing which already manifested reality you will experience. And when you understand this, when you can consciously enter the 5D world and operate from it, manifestation becomes instant. Because you are not waiting for something to be created. You are simply claiming what already is. Let me explain to you the mechanics of the 5D world, because understanding how it works is essential to using it. In the 5D world, everything exists as pure consciousness, pure potentiality, pure being. There is no form yet, no manifestation in the physical sense, but there is complete and total reality at the level of consciousness. Imagine a radio dial with infinite stations, each station broadcasting a different reality. The reality where you are wealthy is one station. The reality where you are poor is another station. The reality where you are healthy, loved, successful. Each is its own station, all broadcasting simultaneously. In the 3D world, you can only hear one station at a time, the one you are currently tuned to. And because you only hear one station, you believe that is the only reality that exists. But in the 5D world, all stations are broadcasting right now. All realities exist simultaneously. The question is not which reality will come into existence. The question is which reality will you tune into. Your consciousness is the dial. Your assumptions, your beliefs, your habitual thoughts and feelings determine which station you are tuned to. And whichever station you tune to in the 5D world, that is what appears in your 3D experience. Most people are tuned to the station of their current circumstances. They see poverty, so they stay tuned to the poverty station. They experience loneliness, so they remain tuned to the loneliness station. They do not realize they can change the station at any moment. But when you become conscious of the 5D world, when you understand that you can choose which reality to tune into, everything changes. You are no longer a victim of circumstances. You are the conscious selector of your reality. So how do you actually enter the 5D world? How do you access this dimension where all possibilities exist? The answer is both simple and profound. You enter the 5D world through the doorway of assumption. When you assume something is already true, when you claim a reality as already existing, you are operating from the 5D world. Let me be very specific about how this works. First, you must identify which reality you wish to experience. Not what you want to create, but which already existing reality you wish to claim. Do you wish to experience the reality where you are wealthy, where you are loved, where you are healthy? Second, you must recognize that this reality already exists in the 5D world. It is not something you need to make happen. It is not something you need to manifest. It already is. The wealthy you already exists. The loved you already exists. These are not future possibilities. They are present realities in the dimension of infinite possibilities. Third, you must claim this reality as yours. Not through effort, not through trying to bring it to you, but through simple assumption. You assume this is your reality. You take it as a given fact. You accept it as already true. This assumption is the key that unlocks the door to the 5D world. When you truly assume something is yours, when you claim an already existing reality, you shift your consciousness to that frequency, to that station. And once you are tuned to that station in the 5D world, it must appear in your 3D experience. But here's where most people fail. They try to assume while still identifying with their 3D circumstances. They try to claim the wealthy reality while still seeing themselves as poor. They try to tune to the love station while still feeling lonely. You cannot be in two places at once. You cannot be tuned to two stations simultaneously. You must completely shift your identification from the 3D reality you are experiencing to the 5D reality you are claiming. This brings us to the most important practice, learning to live from the 5D world rather than from the 3D world. Living from the 3D world means you base your thoughts, feelings, and actions on what you currently see in your physical reality. You look at your bank account and think poor thoughts. You notice your empty bed and feel lonely. You check the mirror and think sick thoughts. You are living from the 3D evidence. Living from the 5D world means you base your thoughts, feelings, and actions on the reality you have claimed in the dimension of infinite possibilities. Regardless of what the 3D world shows you, you think, feel, and act from the reality you have selected in the 5D world. When you live from the 5D world, your bank account may show lack, but you think from wealth. Your current circumstances may show loneliness, but you feel from love. Your body may show symptoms, but you identify with the health that already exists in the 5D reality you have claimed. This is not denial. This is not pretending. This is recognizing that the 3D world is showing you yesterday's reality, the old station you were tuned to. But you have now tuned to a new station in the 5D world, and you are waiting for the 3D world to catch up and reflect this new reality. Let me give you a practical example. A man came to me who wanted to experience financial abundance. He had been trying to manifest money for years with no success. He visualized, he affirmed, he worked techniques. Nothing changed. I said to him, stop trying to manifest money. Instead, recognize that in the 5D world, the reality where you are abundantly wealthy already exists right now. Your job is not to create this reality. Your job is to claim it and live from it. I taught him to spend time each day consciously entering the 5D world in his imagination. He would close his eyes and recognize in the infinite dimension of possibilities, there exists a version of me who is abundantly wealthy. That version is as real as any other version. And I now claim that version as my reality. Then throughout his day, whenever his 3D circumstances tried to pull him back into the consciousness of lack, he would remember, I am living from the 5D reality of abundance. What I see in 3D is old news, yesterday's reflection. My new reality is already established in the 5D world and is now making its way into my 3D experience. Within 3 months, money came to him in ways he never expected. Not because he manifested it, but because he tuned into the station where he was already wealthy, and the 3D world reflected this new frequency. One of the most powerful aspects of the 5D world is that time does not exist there. In the 5D dimension, everything exists in the eternal now. Past, present, and future are simultaneous. This means that what you call your future already exists in the 5D world. The life you will be living 5 years from now already exists. Right now in the dimension of infinite possibilities. You are not creating your future. Your future already exists. You are simply selecting which future you will experience. This is why I teach that you can collapse time. When you claim a reality in the 5D world, you are not waiting for it to be created and then appear in your future. You are claiming something that already exists, and the 3D world simply updates to reflect this reality. And the speed at which a 5D reality appears in your 3D experience depends on the intensity and consistency of your assumption. The more completely you live from the 5D reality you have claimed, the faster the 3D world conforms. But understand this, the moment you claim a reality in the 5D world, it is done, it is finished, it is already yours. The appearance in 3D is simply a matter of the denser, slower dimension catching up with the higher, faster dimension. You think of it like watching a video. When you select a video to watch, the entire video already exists on the tape. But your screen can only display it frame by frame, moment by moment. You are not creating the video as you watch it. The video is already complete. You are simply experiencing it in sequence. The same is true for your life. When you claim a reality in the 5D world, the entire reality already exists complete and finished. Your 3D experience is simply playing it out frame by frame, moment by moment. But it is already done the instant you claim it. Here is something profound to understand about the 5D world. Infinite versions of you already exist there. There is a version of you who is wealthy, a version who is poor, a version who is healthy, a version who is sick, a version who is loved, a version who is alone. All of these versions are real. All of them exist right now in the 5D world. The question is not which version will come into existence. The question is which version are you identifying with? Most people identify with the version of themselves that matches their current 3D circumstances. If they are poor in 3D, they identify with the poor version of themselves. If they are sick in 3D, they identify with the sick version. But you have the power to shift your identification at any moment. You can stop identifying with the version of you that matches your current circumstances and start identifying with the version of you that you wish to experience. When you identify with a new version of yourself in the 5D world, you literally become that version. Your consciousness shifts to that frequency. And when your consciousness shifts, your 3D experience must shift to match it. This is not about becoming someone you are not. This is about recognizing that all versions of you already exist and choosing which one you will be. Let me share with you the ultimate truth about this dimension of infinite possibilities. The truth that makes all of this not just possible but inevitable. This dimension is not somewhere else. It is not a place you travel to. This realm of infinite possibilities is what you are. You are not in this dimension. You are this dimension expressing as individual consciousness. All the infinite possibilities that exist here exist within you. You are the library containing every book. You are the radio containing every station. You are the consciousness in which all realities exist. When you claim a reality from this infinite dimension, you are not reaching outside yourself to grab something. You are recognizing what already exists within you and choosing to experience it. This is why assumption works. This is why consciousness creates reality. This is why you are the operant power. Because you are not a small being trying to manipulate a vast external universe. You are the infinite consciousness in which the entire universe exists, choosing which aspect of your infinite self you will experience. The 3D world is your self-expression. The 4D world is your creative workshop. This infinite dimension is your infinite being, and you have access to all three dimensions at all times. So what does it mean to live as an infinite being? It means you stop being a victim of 3D circumstances. It means you stop struggling to manifest in the 4D imagination. It means you recognize that everything already exists in this dimension of infinite possibilities, and your only job is to claim which reality you will experience. Living from infinite consciousness means you wake up each day knowing that today's reality is not imposed upon you. You are selecting it from infinite possibilities. Living from this awareness means you meet challenges not with fear, but with the knowledge that in this dimension the solution already exists. Living as infinite consciousness means you never ask, can this happen? But only, which version of this do I choose to experience? This is your invitation. This is your birthright. This is the truth of what you are. You are not a 3D body struggling through time. You are not even a 4D imagination creating your world. You are infinite being, temporarily focused through the lens of individuality, selecting which of your infinite possibilities you will experience. Enter this dimension. Claim your reality. Live from infinite possibilities. And watch as your 3D world becomes a perfect reflection of the magnificent reality you have claimed from the dimension where everything already exists in perfect completion. Thank you, and good evening. As always, thank you for joining me on this journey into the depths of consciousness. Remember, you are not here by accident. You are here because your soul is ready for this truth. Take these teachings and let them transform not just your mind but your entire reality. Until we meet again in consciousness, keep assuming your greatness and living from the end of your desires. This is Best of Lectures, and I'll see you in the next video. Good evening, my dear friends. Tonight I'm going to teach you something that will completely transform how you approach manifestation. Most people treat their desires like destinations on a map. They see themselves here, and their wish fulfilled over there, and they spend all their energy trying to close that gap. But I'm going to show you tonight that there is no gap to close. There is no distance to travel. There is no journey to make. There is only an assumption to occupy. And once you occupy it, you must walk in it. Not visit it for 20 minutes during meditation. Not think about it occasionally throughout your day. Walk in it, live in it, move through your entire life from within that assumption. This continuous occupation of your desired state is what separates those who manifest from those who struggle. They walk in the assumption. They don't just visit it. When you walk somewhere, you don't stand still and think about walking. You don't visualize your legs moving. You don't affirm, I am walking. You just walk. You inhabit the action completely. It's natural, automatic, something you do without conscious effort or constant self-monitoring. You don't wake up each morning convincing yourself you can walk. You simply walk when you need to walk, and you don't question it. This is how you must relate to your assumption. When I say walk in the assumption, I mean inhabit it so completely, so naturally, so automatically, that you stop thinking about whether you're doing it right. You're not trying to walk in it. You're not practicing walking in it. You're just walking in it. Naturally, effortlessly, as your new normal. Here's where most people fail. They create an assumption, let's say wealth. They might even feel wealthy during meditation. But then they finish their practice and immediately return to walking in poverty consciousness. They check their bank account with anxiety. They make decisions from scarcity. They worry about bills. They think thoughts of lack all day long. And then at night they meditate on wealth for 20 minutes. They're visiting the assumption of wealth. But they're walking in the assumption of poverty. And it's the assumption you walk in, the one you inhabit all day long. The one that shapes your thoughts, feelings, decisions, and actions. That creates your reality. Not the one you visit during spiritual practice. You can't walk in poverty for 23 hours and walk in wealth for 1 hour and expect to manifest wealth. Because consciousness creates reality based on where you actually live, not where you occasionally visit. You must walk in your desired assumption all day, every day, until it becomes your natural state. Let me give you specific examples. If you're walking in the assumption of wealth, when you wake up, your first thoughts aren't about money problems. You think from abundance. When you check your bank account, you don't do it with anxiety. You look calmly, knowing the number is temporary. When you make purchases, you decide from a mentality of having plenty, even if the account doesn't reflect it yet. When bills arrive, you handle them practically while maintaining that money flows to you easily. When opportunities appear, you accept them naturally, expecting good things. You walk through your entire day thinking, feeling, deciding, and acting from the consciousness of wealth. If you're walking in the assumption of being loved, you don't wake up feeling lonely. You feel cherished from the moment you open your eyes. You don't analyze interactions, looking for proof. You move through the world knowing you're valued. You don't tolerate disrespect. You naturally expect to be treated well. You don't seek validation. You're already validated by the love you know you have. You walk through your day from the consciousness of being deeply, completely loved. Do you see the difference between this and just thinking about being loved for a few minutes before bed? Walking in the assumption means it becomes your operating system, not an app you open occasionally. Here's what most people don't understand. Walking in the assumption is a decision, not a feeling you wait for. You don't wait until you feel wealthy to walk in the assumption of wealth. You decide to walk in it, and the feeling follows. The assumption comes first. The feeling comes second. The manifestation comes third. Most people reverse this. They think when I feel wealthy, I'll walk in wealth consciousness. But you'll never feel it if you're not walking in it. Feelings follow assumptions, not the other way around. So you make a decision, today I walk in the assumption of wealth. Regardless of what my bank account shows, regardless of how I currently feel, regardless of what circumstances suggest, I walk in wealth. And then you do it. You make every thought, every feeling, every decision, every action come from that place. You walk in the assumption by choosing it, moment by moment, until it becomes automatic. At first, walking in a new assumption will feel unnatural. You'll wobble, you'll forget, you'll slip back, you'll wake up worrying about money. Then remember, wait, I'm walking in wealth now. You'll catch yourself making a decision from scarcity. Then correct. No, that's not where I walk anymore. This is normal. This is how you learn to walk in a new assumption. At first, it requires conscious effort. You have to remind yourself constantly. You have to correct yourself frequently. But if you persist, if you keep choosing the assumption, keep redirecting to it, keep walking in it despite the wobbles, it becomes easier, more natural, more automatic. Eventually you stop thinking about it. You just naturally think, feel, and act from that assumption because you've walked in it so consistently that it's become who you are. So how to walk throughout your day? Morning. The moment you wake up, before checking the news or thinking about problems, occupy your assumption. If you're assuming wealth, feel financially secure. Let that be your first conscious experience of the day. Spend the first few minutes walking in your assumption before the world can pull you into your old state. Throughout the day, do this. Every moment is a choice. Every thought is an opportunity to walk in your desired state. Set reminders if needed. Every hour, am I walking in my assumption right now, or have I slipped back? When you notice you've slipped, don't judge yourself. Just return. Choose again. Walk in the assumption again. In the evening. Before bed, review your day, not based on external events, but on how well you maintained your assumption. Did you walk in wealth today, or in poverty? Then, as you drift to sleep, return to your assumption one more time. Feel it. Let it be the last state you occupy before sleep. You're training yourself to walk in this assumption so consistently that it becomes your permanent state. When you truly walk in an assumption, your thoughts automatically align with it. Your feelings naturally match it. Your decisions reflect it. Your actions express it. When you walk in an assumption, your entire being organizes itself around that assumption. And when your entire being reflects your assumption, the three-dimensional world must reorganize itself to match. The external world always shows you the assumption you're walking in. If you don't like what you see, don't try to change the external world directly. Change the assumption you're walking in. Start walking in wealth instead of poverty. Start walking in love instead of loneliness. Start walking in success instead of struggle. And watch as the external world shifts to reflect your new state. Here's the most challenging part. You must walk in your assumption even when the external evidence contradicts it. You start walking in wealth, and then the bill arrives. The bank account stays the same. Your mind screams, see, this isn't working. Look at the evidence. But the external evidence is always showing you your past assumption, not your current one. What you see in the three-dimensional world is the materialization of the assumption you were walking in days, weeks, or months ago. During the interval between assumption and manifestation, you must continue walking in the new assumption despite the old evidence. You acknowledge reality practically, you pay the bill, you handle the situation. But internally, you remain walking in your new state. This is old information. This is the past made visible. But I'm walking in a new assumption now, and this new assumption is creating a new reality, and you keep walking in it. Understand this clearly. You don't wait for proof before you walk in the assumption. You walk in the assumption, and then the proof appears. Most people think, show me the money, and then I'll walk in wealth consciousness. But consciousness doesn't work that way. You must walk in wealth consciousness first. Occupy that state. Live from it. Make it your natural way of being. And then after you've walked in it consistently, faithfully, persistently, The external money must appear. The proof doesn't create the state. The state creates the proof. First the assumption, then the walking, then the manifestation. This is always the order, always. Tonight, make a decision. Choose one assumption. Just one. The most important one to you right now. Wealth, love, health, success. Whatever matters most. And decide starting tomorrow morning, I walk in this assumption. Not I'll try. Not I'll walk in it when I feel like it. I walk in it, period. Tomorrow morning, before anything else, occupy that assumption. Feel it. Experience it. Throughout your day, keep choosing it. Keep returning to it. Keep walking in it. When you wobble, return. When you forget, remember. When you slip, choose again. Walk in that assumption for 7 days straight. Not perfectly, but persistently. And at the end of 7 days, notice what's different. Because when you truly walk in an assumption, when you make it your lived experience rather than your occasional practice, everything changes. If you walk in your assumption faithfully, consistently, persistently, if you make it your natural state rather than a state you visit, it must manifest. Consciousness creates reality. The assumption you walk in is your consciousness made visible. Walk in poverty, create poverty. Walk in wealth, create wealth. The choice is yours, but once you choose it, you must walk in it. Choose your assumption. Occupy it. Live from it. Think from it. Feel from it. Act from it. Walk in it. And watch as your entire world transforms to match the state you've chosen to inhabit. Thank you for being here tonight. Remember, you're not trying to get somewhere. You're already there in assumption. Now walk in it. This is Best of Lectures. I will see you in the next video.
The world sold you a story of struggle. They painted pictures of endless hustle, sleepless nights, and sacrificial climbs up mountains of man-made success. They whispered in your ear, work harder, do more, give up everything for the dream of someday having enough. But heaven spoke a radically different language. While the world screamed hustle, the Spirit whispered, stand still and speak the word, and I will deliver it unto thee. You were not born to be a slave to the visible realm. You were not designed to bow before bank statements, to tremble at invoices, or to measure your worth by the numbers on a screen. You were born to command the invisible forces that govern all substance, all supply, all divine wealth. Here's the revelation that will shatter your reality. You may think you're listening to learn how to become a multi-millionaire, but let me tell you the truth that will set you free. You are already a multi-millionaire in the realm of spirit, right now, not someday when you work hard enough, not if you find the right opportunity, not when the stars align or the economy improves, but right now. You do not become what you say. You reveal what already is by speaking it into form. Every dollar you'll ever need, every contract that will transform your life, every opportunity that will elevate your existence, every divine appointment that will change your story. All of it already exists in the invisible warehouse of the Word. You don't chase it. You don't earn it. You don't deserve it through struggle. You declare it, and it comes to you under grace in perfect ways. When Moses stood trembling before the burning bush, overwhelmed by his assignment and his inadequacy, God didn't give him a riddle wrapped in mystery. He gave him the ultimate password to unlock every treasure in heaven and earth. I am that I am. This wasn't poetry. This wasn't a philosophical meditation. This was a legal announcement in the court of divine law. It was the password that parts seas, the key that unlocks treasuries, the name that commands all substance to obey. When you say I am, you are not simply making an affirmation. You are not engaging in positive thinking or hopeful wishing. You are stepping into your eternal identity, not what the world calls you, not what your circumstances echo back to you, not what your bank account reflects, but what Spirit already knows to be eternally, unchangeably true. You are rich now, not when you get the promotion, close the deal, or find your purpose. You are provided for now, not when you figure out the plan, work up the courage, When conditions improve, you are supplied now. Not when you prove yourself worthy, when you sacrifice enough, when you hustle harder. But here's the bridge you must cross. Your words must catch up with heaven. I was once exactly where you are, waiting, hoping, afraid to declare the good, lest I be disappointed. I thought faith meant silently believing while externally struggling. I thought wealth came from action, from grinding, from proving myself to an indifferent universe. But I learned the cosmic truth. Faith means boldly declaring. Wealth comes from authority, not activity. So I was waiting on God, but God was waiting on my word. And the moment I spoke, not from fear, not from desperation, not from trying to manipulate outcomes, but from the deep knowing of who I am in spirit, everything changed. Money showed up from sources I never expected. People offered checks without being asked. Old debts vanished like morning mist. New doors swung open with supernatural ease. Why? Because I finally said the one thing that changes everything. I am a multi-millionaire by divine right, and my supply is here now. Most people hand the microphone of their reality to the world the moment they open their eyes. They reach for their phones, check their bank accounts, scan the news, and let external circumstances set the tone for their entire day. They become thermometers, reflecting whatever temperature life serves them. But the wealthy in spirit understand a sacred principle. The first word of your day is the seed of everything that unfolds. You must learn to speak before breakfast, to declare before you dress, to command before you calculate. You must seize the throne of your reality before the world has a chance to dictate its limited agenda. Here's your new morning protocol, the ritual that transforms peasants into princes. Before your feet touch the floor, before you check a single notification, before you let the world whisper its fears into your consciousness, you rise up in the authority of your divine nature and declare, this is a day of divine provision orchestrated by heaven itself. I walk into increase with every step. Supply meets me at every turn. God goes before me and prepares channels I haven't even seen yet. Every conversation is divinely guided. Every appointment is perfectly timed. Every opportunity is heaven sent. I am met with favor, increase, and overflow before the sun sets. This isn't just morning motivation. This is metaphysical mastery. This is how you frame your atmosphere, how you set the spiritual temperature of your environment, how you ensure that your day serves your vision instead of your circumstances controlling your experience. The difference between the wealthy and the weary is simple. The wealthy decree from their throne before they survey the battlefield. The weary check the battle report before they decide whether to speak. But I tell you the truth, nothing on the battlefield matters when your word has already won the war. Let me share with you the exact sentence that transformed my financial reality and elevated me from struggling to supernatural supply. This isn't theory. This is my lived testimony. The proof that the word works when worked consistently. There came a moment when I didn't have much money, but I had something far more powerful, a sentence. And I chose to speak that sentence, not once, not occasionally, not when I felt inspired or remembered, but every single day for 90 consecutive days, as though my very breath depended on it. The sentence that changed everything is this: God is my unfailing supply. Large sums of money come to me quickly, under grace, in perfect ways. I didn't shout it. I didn't dramatize it. I didn't perform it for an audience. I spoke it in rhythm, in stillness, in law, morning after morning, moment after moment, with the quiet confidence of one who knows that the word cannot return void. I spoke it not as a ritual, but as a return to divine order, not as a performance, but as a pronouncement, not to convince God of anything, but to align myself with what God had already ordained, that supply is never delayed, that money is never random, that the source is never blocked, and the channels are never truly closed, except by the spoken doubts of humanity itself. I chose for 90 days, not to ask how it would happen, not to demand when it would manifest, not to argue with appearances, not to check constantly for proof, not to let doubt dilute my decree. Instead, I simply spoke the word, and something sacred began to unfold. My mind stopped racing with worry. My emotions settled into peace. The vibration of lack that had haunted my atmosphere, like a persistent fog, began to lift like mist in the morning sun. The word began to replace the worry, and with it came what skeptics call coincidences, but I call substance answering spirit. The manifestations began. An unexpected refund appeared from an account I had completely forgotten. A client I hadn't spoken to in years wrote a substantial check without any request from me. Opportunities emerged through channels I never could have designed or foreseen. Bills that had loomed like giants fell without battle or struggle. Doors opened that had been sealed for years. I realized with awe and quiet joy that nothing was coming to me. It had always been circling, waiting for the atmosphere of permission that only the spoken word can create. The money was never held back by the economy, by timing, by my qualifications, or by my efforts. It was held back only by contradiction in my speech. Once the contradiction ceased, once the word became law through repetition and reverence and rhythm, the wealth obeyed like a well-trained servant. You may ask, was it difficult? No, it was holy. Was it fast? It was faithful. Did it always feel like it was working? No, but the law doesn't ask how you feel. The law asks what you say. But here's where most people sabotage their own breakthrough. They speak their wealth into existence with morning declarations, then assassinate it with afternoon fears. There comes a moment for every soul who dares to walk by faith instead of sight. A moment when the winds howl, when appearances scream contradiction, when bills pile up like accusations, when phones remain silent like judges, when doors look locked like prisons, when logic says turn back and emotion says give up, and the world says be reasonable. Even your own mind begins to whisper the poison of doubt. What if it's not working? What if you're delusional? What if you're wasting your time? In that moment, many who once spoke with boldness begin to retract, to tremble, to reverse their decrees with the betrayal of hesitation and self-doubt. But understand this with crystal clarity. Fear is not your friend. It's not your wisdom. It's not your intuition protecting you from disappointment. Fear is a reversal spell, a silent assassin, a false prophet sent specifically to sabotage your supply. Fear is a vacuum, and your wealth cannot dwell where it is not welcome. The greatest contradiction to your spoken word is not what others say about your dreams, what the economy does to your industry, what your past holds as evidence against you. The greatest contradiction is what you entertain after the word has been spoken. Every doubt allowed after your decree becomes a leak in the pipe, a crack in the temple wall, a weakening of the structure that should have been indestructible. So your new protocol for dealing with fear is this. When fear whispers, what if it doesn't come? You roar back. It already has in spirit, and the substance is following the blueprint I've spoken. When fear hisses, you're behind schedule. You declare, I am in divine alignment, and my supply runs ahead of me, preparing the way. When fear dares to suggest there's not enough to go around, you announce my source is infinite, and I live in overflow that blesses everyone I touch. When fear tries to convince you, you don't deserve this, you proclaim, I am an heir of the king, and wealth is my birthright. You don't negotiate with thieves. You don't debate with devourers. You don't reason with robbers. You rebuke them. You evict them. You cast them out like the trespassers they are. Your daily fear-crushing declaration. I cast the burden of fear upon the Christ within, and I go free. I no longer fear not having enough, for I walk with the God who is more than enough. I no longer fear delay, for divine timing is perfect, and never late. I no longer fear appearances, for I know the law is working beneath the surface of every circumstance. There is a sacred shift that occurs in the soul when someone finally stops speaking from the tremble of their feelings and begins speaking from the throne of law, when they no longer wait for their emotions to be perfect before proclaiming what is already perfect in spirit. The law does not respond to emotion. It responds to instruction. The word of power is not born in the realm of sentiment. It is born in the realm of certainty, the realm where God himself said, let there be light, not because he felt light, not because the world looked bright, but because he was light and spoke from his own nature rather than from the condition of the void. If you are made in the image and likeness of God, and then you are called to speak not what you feel, but what you know to be eternally true, even when your senses betray you, even when bank statements lie, even when circumstances scream contradiction. Emotion is weather, but law is the sky beneath it. Emotion is a passing wave, but law is the ocean floor. Emotion is a drifting cloud, but law is the gravity that holds the earth in place. If you try to build your wealth, your declarations, your supply, and your spiritual identity on the shaky scaffolding of emotion, you will be blown about by every gust of circumstance, every late payment, every rejected proposal, every slow week, every unsupportive voice, every disappointing phone call. But if you anchor yourself in law, if you plant your feet in the immovable word that says, "Thou shalt decree a thing, and it shall be established unto thee," then it will not matter how you feel when you say it, because divine law does not require your mood, it requires your mouth. The most powerful words I ever spoke were not the ones I felt deeply in my bones. They were the ones I spoke despite how I felt. The ones I spoke when I felt afraid, but chose faith. When I felt empty, but chose overflow. When I felt forgotten, but chose divine remembrance. When I felt late, but chose perfect timing. Those words, those cold, firm, unshaken words, worked miracles because they were rooted in law, not feeling. They carried the authority of eternal truth, rather than the instability of temporary emotion. When you speak from law, you speak as one who commands the invisible. You speak as the general, not the soldier. You speak as the architect, not the bricklayer. You speak as the heir, not the orphan. You say, "My supply is constant because my source is eternal," even when the invoice arrives. You say, "My wealth increases daily because I am one with divine substance," even when your wallet feels thin. You say, "Money flows to me richly, rapidly, and repeatedly," even when the world tries to convince you to fear, because your word is not an echo of what is. It is a decree of what shall be. Every morning, you stand at a crossroads of identity. You can either accept the labels the world has assigned you based on your circumstances, or you can claim the title heaven has already bestowed upon you based on your spiritual DNA. The first divine habit of all who walk in visible wealth is the relentless rhythmic identification with what is already true in spirit, even when it is not yet seen in form. This is not pretending. This is not performance. This is not delusion. This is divine law. When you say, "I am rich," you are not boasting about what your bank account reflects. You are coming into agreement with what heaven already ordained, what divine substance already declared from the foundations of the world. When God revealed himself to Moses in the burning bush and said, "I am that I am," he was not offering a poetic riddle. He was revealing the core name of all reality, the generative principle that undergirds every act of creation. When you say, "I am," you are not simply affirming something. You are activating a blueprint. You are connecting your consciousness to the generator of all form. You are announcing to seen and unseen realms alike that you no longer speak from your senses, but from your source. And if your source is divine, then your substance must follow. For the river cannot produce what the spring does not contain, and the spring of God contains only abundance, only overflow, only perfection, only opulence, only divine order. Therefore, you must reject all lesser labels, cast down all false titles, break agreement with every identity that echoes struggle, refuse all names that suggest delay or insufficiency, and you must daily, audibly, joyfully declare from your soul, "I am divine wealth. I am the visible expression of invisible supply. I am one with the treasury of heaven. I am the circulation point of unlimited riches. I am abundance in human form. I am the expression of divine increase." Don't say it once as if checking a box. Say it again and again until it melts every resistance, until it drowns out the old voices of lack and fear, until it becomes more natural to say, "I am wealthy" than to say, "I'm trying," until your inner speech becomes a river of truth, so wide and so strong that doubt has no place to root. You must understand that your word is not merely language. It is legislation. Not merely sound, it is spiritual statute. Not merely affirmation, it is divine commandment. If you do not grasp this fundamental truth, you will continue to speak as if your words are weak opinions instead of royal decrees that shape the corridors of the unseen, vibrate through the ethers of substance, and summon into form the riches of divine supply itself. The word is not symbolic. It is structural. It is not a metaphor for action. It is the generator of manifestation. You have been taught by the world to wait for provision before you speak as one who has. But heaven demands the reverse. You must speak as one who has in order to see the provision. What is visible bows to what is vocal. The word, when spoken in spiritual alignment, does not ask permission. It gives instruction. It does not describe chaos. It establishes cosmos. It does not repeat problems. It overrides them with spiritual architecture. This is why Isaiah 55:11 was given not as poetry but as physics, as spiritual mechanics. So shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it. If God has said this about his word, and if you are made in his image, then your word, when spoken from union with the Christ within, carries the same unfailing nature. The word that returns void is not the word of law, but the word of fear, complaint, sarcasm, idle speech, emotional reaction. Such words are like arrows fired at fog. They create more confusion and reinforce the illusion of lack. But the word that returns full is the word issued like a royal edict, a legal utterance from the throne room of consciousness, spoken not from panic, but from posture, not from emotion, but from dominion. That word carries with it an invisible instruction to the very fabric of reality, to align, to open, to yield, to create, to manifest. The world responds not to hoping, not to trying, not to working yourself to exhaustion. It responds to law, and law is released by the spoken word. Until it is spoken, it remains potential. Once it is spoken with authority, it becomes mandate. You are not here to earn wealth. You are here to decree it. You are not here to chase money. You are here to command it. You are not here to beg for provision. You are here to speak it into existence. Your inheritance is not struggle. Your inheritance is wealth. Your nature is not lack. Your nature is abundance. Your speech is not powerless. Your speech is the golden key. The treasury of heaven awaits your voice. The floodgates of supply listen for your command. The channels of prosperity respond to your decree. Open your mouth. Speak your wealth. Command your supply. And watch as the invisible becomes visible, as the spiritual becomes substantial, as the word becomes wealth in your hands. The world is about to witness your rise, not because you worked harder, but because you spoke with authority. Not because you begged louder, but because you commanded from your throne. Not because you hoped stronger, but because you decreed from law. Your mouth is the seed of your dominion. Your word is your wealth. Your voice is your victory. Speak it into existence, now and forever. And so it is. My dear friends, in this lecture, you'll discover the one secret that has the power to dissolve every problem you've ever faced. What if I revealed to you that you are not who you think you are, and that this misunderstanding is the root of all your suffering? Tonight I'm going to share with you the most profound truth I've ever discovered. A truth so powerful that once you grasp it, truly grasp it, worry becomes impossible. Fear dissolves like mist before the sun, and every challenge transforms into a doorway to your desires. But before I reveal this secret, let me ask you something that will shake you to your very core. Right now, as you listen to my voice, who do you believe yourself to be? Are you John, struggling with debt that keeps you awake at night? Are you Mary, anxious about whether your partner truly loves you? Are you someone carrying the crushing weight of past failures, drowning in future uncertainties, suffocated by present limitations? If you answered yes to any of these, then you are living in the grandest illusion ever conceived. You are not your name. You are not your circumstances. You are not your bank balance, your job title, your relationship status. You are not even your thoughts and emotions that seem to control your every waking moment. You are the infinite creative power of the universe, temporarily forgetting your true identity. And in this forgetting lies both your suffering and your salvation. When you worry, and I know you do worry, perhaps right now, as you listen to these words, you are operating from what I call the finite sense of self. You're identifying with your physical body that ages and aches, your personal history filled with disappointments and regrets, your social circumstances that seem to define and confine you. You've forgotten the magnificent being that you truly are. But tonight, this changes. Tonight, you remember who you really are. Tonight, you discover the secret that has been hidden in plain sight your entire life. Listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you, for these words will either liberate you completely or challenge everything you believe about reality. You are not a human being having a spiritual experience. You are God individualized, temporarily wearing the mask of humanity. You are the infinite creative consciousness, pretending to be limited so that you can experience the joy of remembering your unlimited nature. Here's something that will stop you in your tracks and force you to question everything. How can God worry? Think about it deeply. How can the infinite creative force that spoke galaxies into existence, that dreams up every sunset and orchestrates every heartbeat, be concerned about paying rent? How can the consciousness that imagined every star, every ocean, every flower into being, be anxious about what others think of you? It's impossible, isn't it? Completely, utterly impossible. And yet, that's exactly what you are. That same creative power, that same infinite consciousness. The only difference is that you've been hypnotized into believing you're separate from it. You've been mesmerized by the grand illusion that you are small, limited, powerless. But what if I told you that this hypnosis is about to be broken forever? The world you see around you, every problem that torments you, every challenge that seems insurmountable, every limitation that appears to bind you, is not the cause of your experience. It's the effect. It's the outward projection of your inner states of consciousness, like shadows cast by the light of your own mind. This means something so extraordinary that most people cannot accept it when they first hear it. Every circumstance in your life is a reflection of your inner world. That financial struggle that keeps you awake at 3 a.m, it's reflecting a state of lack consciousness that you've been unconsciously occupying. That difficult relationship that brings you pain, it's mirroring your deepest concepts of love, worth, and deserving. That health challenge that frightens you, it's expressing your beliefs about your body, your vitality, your right to be whole and strong. But here's where it gets exciting. And this is the part that will change everything for you. The part that will make you realize you've been living with godlike power all along, without knowing it. If your outer world is a reflection of your inner world, then by changing your inner world, you can transform everything. And I mean everything. Your relationships, your finances, your health, your entire experience of life itself. When you truly understand this, not just intellectually with your reasoning mind, but experientially with every fiber of your being, you'll never look at a problem the same way again. Instead of asking, how can I solve this? You'll ask, what state of consciousness am I occupying that's creating this experience? Instead of trying to change the outer world, you'll focus on changing your inner world, knowing that the outer must conform. This brings me to the most liberating statement you'll ever hear. Words that will set you free from every burden you've ever carried. God will solve it. Now, before you think I'm advocating some form of spiritual passivity, some kind of wishful thinking that expects miracles to fall from the sky, let me clarify what I mean. When I say God will solve it, I'm not referring to some external deity sitting on a cloud, some cosmic figure who may or may not decide to help you. I'm referring to the God within you, the infinite intelligence that is your very essence, the creative power that is your true nature. Stay with me because this next part will literally rewire how you think about problems forever. And I promise you, by the time I finish explaining this, you'll never feel powerless again. When you say God will solve it, you're not abdicating responsibility or washing your hands of your challenges. You're making the most powerful declaration possible. You're aligning yourself with the creative power of the universe. You're stepping out of the limited perspective of the problem and into the expanded consciousness of the solution. Think about this profound truth. A seed doesn't worry about becoming a mighty oak tree. It doesn't lie awake at night wondering if it has what it takes to grow into something magnificent. It contains within itself the complete pattern of its full expression. The entire oak tree, roots, trunk, branches, leaves, exists as pure potential within that tiny seed. Similarly, your consciousness contains within it the solution to every problem you could ever face. Every challenge that appears in your life already carries within it the seed of its own resolution. But you must learn to plant yourself in the fertile soil of faith rather than the barren ground of worry. Here's the practical application that will transform your life immediately. And I want you to try this even as you listen to these words. Instead of focusing on your problem, instead of rehearsing it in your mind, discussing it with others, analyzing it from every angle, focus on the feeling of it already being solved. How would you feel right now if your financial struggles were completely over? How would you move through the world if your relationship was perfectly harmonious? What would your mental state be if your health was vibrant and strong? This feeling, this state of consciousness, where your problem is already solved, is the key to allowing God to solve your problem. You see, when you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, when you live from the end result rather than from the present problem, you are aligning yourself with the creative power of the universe. But wait, this gets even more remarkable, and what I'm about to tell you will completely shatter your concept of time and possibility. In the realm of pure consciousness, where all creation takes place, there is no time. Past, present, and future are illusions of the physical world. In consciousness, everything exists in the eternal now. This means your desire is fulfilled the moment you assume the feeling of its fulfillment with complete conviction. The time it takes to appear in your physical reality depends only on your faith and your persistence in this assumed state. So when I tell you that God will solve your problem, I'm not speaking of some future event. Your problem is already solved, right now, in this very moment. The only question is, are you willing to accept this truth? Think about what this means. Every solution you've ever sought, every answer you've ever needed, every miracle you've ever prayed for, they all exist right now in the realm of infinite possibility. Your job is not to create them. Your job is to select them by assuming the state of consciousness in which they are already yours. Here's something that will surprise you and challenge everything you've been taught about achievement and success. The harder you try to solve your problems, the more you're actually affirming their existence. This is what I call the law of reversed effort. When you struggle and strain to make something happen, when you push and force and manipulate circumstances, you're operating from the consciousness of lack, the very consciousness that created the problem in the first place. You're saying to the universe, I don't have this and I need to make it happen. But the universe only knows how to say yes to your state of consciousness. Instead of trying harder, try less. Instead of doing more, be more. Rest in the knowing that the infinite intelligence within you, the same intelligence that grows your hair without your conscious effort, that beats your heart while you sleep, that orchestrates the intricate dance of billions of cells in your body, is fully capable of solving whatever you're facing. This isn't about being passive or inactive. It's about being aligned. When you're truly aligned with the consciousness of the solution, inspired action flows naturally. You won't feel like you're struggling upstream against the current of life. Instead, you'll find yourself carried by a river of synchronicity toward your desired outcome. You'll find yourself in the right place at the right time, meeting the right people, having the right ideas, receiving the right opportunities. This isn't coincidence. This is consciousness in action. This is God, which you are, orchestrating your reality with infinite intelligence and perfect timing. Let me share with you one of the most powerful techniques I know for allowing God to solve your problems. A practice that has transformed countless lives and will transform yours, if you use it faithfully. Revision. Each night before you sleep, as you're lying in bed preparing to enter the state of consciousness where all creation begins. Review the events of your day. But here's the crucial part. Don't review them as they appeared to your physical senses. Revise them to align with the state of your problems being solved. Had a challenging conversation with your boss? Revise it to have gone perfectly, with your boss expressing confidence in your abilities. Received discouraging news about your finances? Revise it to be encouraging news about new opportunities. Felt anxious about your relationship? Revise yourself as feeling completely loved and secure. This technique works because your memories are not fixed recordings stored somewhere in your brain like files on a computer. They're fluid, living things that are constantly being reconstructed each time you remember them. By consciously revising your memories, you're literally reshaping your past. And as you change your past in imagination, you change your future in reality. But the power of revision goes even deeper than this. When you revise your day to align with your problems being solved, you're not just changing your memories, you're changing your identity. You're becoming the person who naturally attracts solutions rather than problems. The person who moves through life with confidence and grace rather than fear and struggle. Now, some of you might be thinking, but Neville, isn't this just fantasy? Isn't this self-deception? And to this I say, what you call reality is already a form of imagination. The difference is that most people are unconsciously imagining what they don't want, while I'm teaching you to consciously imagine what you do want. Every night, as you practice revision, you're planting seeds in the fertile soil of your subconscious mind. These seeds must grow into your outer experience, because that's the law of consciousness. What you vividly imagine and feel to be true becomes true in your experience. When you assume the state of your problem being solved, truly assume it with feeling and conviction, a series of events is automatically set in motion to bring about the manifestation of your desire. I call this the bridge of incidents. You don't need to know how God will solve your problem. You don't need to figure out the steps, manipulate the circumstances, or force the outcome. Your job is simply to maintain your assumption and trust the bridge. Each event, each encounter, each seeming coincidence is part of this bridge leading you to the complete manifestation of your solved problem. Here's something that will amaze you and fill you with wonder at the intelligence of the universe. Once you truly embody the consciousness of your problem being solved, the entire universe begins to conspire in your favor. People you've never met will play their perfect parts in your unfolding solution. Circumstances will align in ways that seem miraculous but are actually the natural result of your changed consciousness. Opportunities will present themselves at precisely the right moment. Resources will appear from unexpected sources. Doors will open that you didn't even know existed. And all of this will happen not because you forced it, but because you aligned yourself with it through your consciousness. This is what I mean when I say that God will solve it. The infinite intelligence that created and maintains the universe is not separate from you. It is you. And this intelligence knows exactly how to bring about the solution to your problem in the most perfect, harmonious way possible. But here's something crucial that I must emphasize. This is not about sitting back and waiting for miracles to happen while you do nothing. When you're truly aligned with the consciousness of the solution, you'll be inspired to take what I call right action. This action won't feel like struggle or effort. It won't be driven by fear or desperation. Instead, it will feel natural, even inevitable. You'll find yourself making phone calls that lead to breakthrough conversations. You'll be inspired to visit places where you meet exactly the right person. You'll have ideas that seem to come from nowhere but lead to perfect solutions. The difference between right action and wrong action is the consciousness from which it springs. Wrong action comes from the consciousness of the problem. It's driven by fear, worry, and the need to force an outcome. Right action comes from the consciousness of the solution. It's inspired, effortless, and aligned with the natural flow of your good. Pay attention to your inner conversations, the thoughts you think and the words you speak to yourself throughout the day. These conversations are shaping your reality more powerfully than any action you could take in the outer world. Most people have no idea how much power their inner dialogue holds. They spend their days thinking and talking about their problems, rehearsing their fears, anticipating negative outcomes, and then they wonder why their lives are filled with the very things they don't want. If you're constantly thinking and talking about your problems, you're reinforcing their existence in your experience. You're giving them life through your attention, feeding them with your emotional energy, strengthening their hold on your reality. Instead, have inner conversations that align with your problems being solved. Speak to yourself as if the solution is already in place. Have imaginary conversations with others where you discuss the wonderful resolution of your situation. Thank people for their help in bringing about your good fortune, even if this conversation exists only in your imagination. These inner conversations are not just fantasies. They're powerful creative forces that are literally reshaping the substance of your reality. Remember, your subconscious mind cannot distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a physical one. When you have these conversations with feeling and conviction, your subconscious accepts them as real and begins to work to make them real in your outer experience. Let me tell you about a state of consciousness that is crucial to allowing God to solve your problems. What I call the Sabbath state. After you've done your imaginative work, after you've assumed the feeling of your problem being solved, after you've revised your day and had your inner conversations, enter into complete rest. The Sabbath state is a state of total release from all effort, a state of knowing that your work is done. In this state, you no longer feel the need to make the solution happen because you know it already is happening. You rest in the certainty of the outcome, allowing God to work through the natural unfolding of events. This rest is not the rest of exhaustion or defeat. It's the rest of completion, the peace that comes from knowing that everything is handled. It's like planting a seed and then leaving it alone to grow, trusting that the intelligence within the seed knows exactly what to do. Many people struggle with this state because they've been conditioned to believe that they must be constantly doing something to create change. But the truth is that the most important work happens in consciousness, and once that work is complete, the outer manifestation is inevitable. The Sabbath state is not about being lazy or inactive. It's about operating from the consciousness of completion rather than the consciousness of need. When you're truly in this state, any action you take flows from inspiration rather than desperation, from fullness rather than emptiness. The next one is perhaps the most important concept I can share with you, and I want you to really let this sink into your consciousness. Live from the end. Don't live hoping your problem will be solved someday in the future. Live as if it's already solved right now, in this very moment. When you truly do this, when you embody the consciousness of the solution rather than the problem, time collapses. The future you desire becomes your present reality. You're not waiting for change to happen. You're experiencing it now. Think about what it would mean to live from the end of your financial struggles. You wouldn't check your bank balance with anxiety. You'd check it with the quiet confidence of someone who always has enough. You wouldn't worry about bills. You'd pay them knowing that the money flows to you as easily as breath flows through your lungs. Think about what it would mean to live from the end of your relationship problems. You wouldn't wonder if you're loved. You'd know it with unshakable certainty. You wouldn't try to control or manipulate your partner. You'd rest in the security of perfect love. This is not pretense or self-deception. This is alignment with your true nature and your ultimate good. When you live from the end, you're not denying your current circumstances. You're choosing to identify with your desired reality rather than your present appearance. Cultivate gratitude, not just for what you can see and touch, but for the unseen solution that is even now unfolding in your life. Give thanks for the wisdom that guides you, the love that surrounds you, and the power that resides within you. This gratitude is not just a nice feeling. It's a powerful creative force that aligns you with the frequency of your desires fulfilled. When you're truly grateful for your problems being solved, even before you see evidence, you're opening a doorway for miracles to enter your experience. Gratitude puts you in a state of receptivity. It says to the universe, I am ready to receive my good. It acknowledges that your good is already on its way, already in motion, already seeking expression through you. Practice this kind of gratitude throughout your day. Thank God for the solution that is unfolding. Thank the people who will play their parts in your good fortune. Thank the circumstances that are aligning for your benefit. Do this even when, especially when, You can't see any evidence in the outer world. Never forget this fundamental truth. You are not separate from God. You are an individualized expression of the infinite creative power. The same intelligence that set the stars in their courses flows through your consciousness. The same love that holds galaxies together beats in your heart. The same creative force that imagined the universe into existence lives and moves and has its being as you. When you remember this truth, really remember it, not just as a nice idea, but as a living reality, every problem becomes an opportunity to witness the divine power in action. Every challenge becomes a chance to exercise your godlike nature. Every obstacle becomes a stepping stone to greater expression of your infinite potential. Here's the ultimate secret, the one truth that changes everything. You don't need to become someone new to solve your problems. You need to remember who you've always been. You need to stop pretending to be limited and start expressing your unlimited nature. You are not your circumstances. You are not your challenges. You are not your past failures or future fears. You are the awareness in which all these experiences appear and disappear like clouds in the vastness of the sky. Trusting that God will solve your problem is not a one-time event. It's a continuous choice, a moment-by-moment decision to align with your true nature rather than your temporary appearance. You must persist in this state of faith even when the outer world shows no sign of change, even when others doubt you, even when your own mind tries to convince you it's not working. This persistence is what separates those who successfully transform their lives from those who give up too soon. Think of it like moving to a new home. You don't wake up each morning wondering where you are, looking around confused and uncertain. You naturally assume your new surroundings because you know where you live. This is how you must be with your faith, that God will solve your problem. It should become your new normal, your new home state. Even when the old familiar thoughts of worry try to move back in, you gently but firmly remind them that they no longer live here. But what if you falter? What if you find yourself slipping back into worry and doubt? Do not despair. Do not judge yourself harshly. Simply acknowledge what has happened and return to your state of faith and surrender. Remember, you are breaking lifelong habits of thought and feeling. It takes practice, patience, and persistence. As you practice these principles, as you truly embody the consciousness that God will solve it, you'll notice something remarkable happening. Your entire perception of life shifts. What once seemed like insurmountable obstacles now appear as stepping stones to greater expression. What once felt like punishment now feels like preparation. You begin to see yourself not as a victim of circumstances, but as the creator of experiences. Not as someone hoping for change, but as someone allowing transformation. Not as someone begging God for help, but as someone remembering that you are the very God you've been praying to. And here's the most beautiful part of this entire journey, the revelation that brings tears of joy to those who truly understand it. When you fully awaken to your true nature, when you completely embody the consciousness that God will solve it, you realize something profound and liberating. There never was a problem to begin with. There was only God, which you are, pretending to have problems so that God could experience the infinite joy of remembering its unlimited power to solve them. Every challenge you faced has been a game of cosmic hide and seek, with the infinite playing at being finite, the unlimited pretending to be limited, the eternal acting as if it were temporary. And now the game is ending. Now you're remembering who you really are. So I ask you now, as we near the end of our time together, are you ready to stop living as a limited human being and start expressing as the infinite creative power you truly are? Are you willing to release your attachment to problems and embrace your identity as the solution to everything you've ever sought? The choice is yours. It has always been yours. The power is within you. It has always been within you. The time is now. It has always been now. Remember this as you go forward. You are not your circumstances. You are not your challenges. You are not even your thoughts and emotions. You are the awareness in which all these experiences arise and pass away. You are the infinite creative power of the universe, temporarily wearing the mask of humanity, playing the game of limitation, so you can experience the ecstasy of remembering your unlimited nature. Tonight, as you go to sleep, carry this truth with you like a precious treasure. God will solve it. Not because you hope so, not because you wish it to be true, but because you are God individualized. And it is impossible, utterly impossible, for you to have a problem that you cannot solve. Rest in this knowing. Live from this truth. Breathe this reality into every cell of your being. And watch with wonder and gratitude as your entire world transforms to match the magnificent being you've always been, but temporarily forgot. The secret that changes everything is this. You are everything. You are the problem, you are the solution, and you are the creative power that bridges them both. You are the dreamer and the dream, the seeker and the sought, the question and the answer. Welcome home to your true self. Welcome home to your divine nature. Welcome home to a life where God solves everything, because God is who you are, who you've always been, and who you'll always be. Tesla died clutching a theory that could have changed everything. In his final papers, he wrote about a discovery so profound that the government classified it for decades. He claimed he'd found the fundamental frequency of reality itself, the hidden signal that controls everything from human consciousness to the movement of galaxies. What if he was right? What if there's an invisible layer of reality operating beneath everything you can see, touch, or measure? And what if learning to tune into it could completely transform your life? Right now, something extraordinary is happening. Your heart is beating at 60 to 100 beats per minute. Your brain is firing electrical signals at specific frequencies. Even your DNA is vibrating at measurable rates. You are literally a walking symphony of frequencies, broadcasting a unique signature into the universe every single second. But here's what nobody tells you. You've never learned to hear your own song. I'm about to tell you something that will change how you see everything. Every emotion you've ever felt, every thought you've ever had, every person you've ever been attracted to or repelled by, none of it was random. It was all frequency matching. When you walk into a room and instantly feel uncomfortable, you're not imagining it. You're picking up discordant frequencies. When you meet someone for the first time and feel like you've known them forever, you're experiencing harmonic resonance. When you think about calling someone and they call you first, you're both tuned to the same energetic channel. Most people call this coincidence. Scientists are starting to call it quantum entanglement. I call it the most powerful force in your life that you've never been taught to use. Here's the mind-bending part. Reality isn't made of things, it's made of patterns, invisible rhythms, frequencies so subtle that 99% of people live their entire lives without ever noticing them. But the 1% who do, they seem to live in a completely different world. They attract opportunities effortlessly. Synchronicities happen to them constantly. They make decisions with uncanny accuracy. People are drawn to them. Money flows to them. Love finds them. It's like they have access to some secret information that everyone else is missing. They do, and you're about to discover what it is. Let me blow your mind with what quantum physicists have discovered. At the smallest levels of reality, smaller than atoms, smaller than electrons, nothing exists as solid matter. Instead, everything exists as waves of probability, vibrating possibilities, waiting to become real. But here's the kicker. These particles don't behave predictably until they're observed. The observer literally changes the outcome. What we focus on, we influence. Our consciousness isn't just watching reality, it's actively creating it. This isn't metaphysical speculation. This is Nobel Prize-winning science. The observer effect is one of the most replicated phenomena in physics. Your attention acts like a cosmic remote control, selecting which channel of reality you experience. Think about that for a moment. If reality is made of frequencies, and consciousness can influence which frequencies become real, then you're not a victim of circumstances. You're a co-creator of your experience. But most people are creating unconsciously. They're broadcasting static instead of signal. They're tuned into frequencies of lack, fear, and limitation without even realizing it. And then they wonder why their lives feel stuck on repeat. Your thoughts aren't just private experiences happening inside your head. They're frequencies with measurable electromagnetic signatures. Scientists can now detect and even decode thoughts using brain scanning technology. Every thought you think is literally broadcasting a signal into the quantum field. Your emotions aren't just chemical reactions in your body. They're complex frequency patterns that extend far beyond your physical boundaries. This is why you can feel someone's mood from across a room. This is why crowds have energy. This is why some places feel sacred while others feel heavy. You are not separate from the world around you. You are embedded in a vast web of interconnected frequencies, constantly transmitting and receiving information at levels far below conscious awareness. Right now, you have a frequency signature as unique as your fingerprint. It's composed of your dominant thoughts, your emotional patterns, your beliefs about yourself and the world, your physical health, even your spiritual state. This signature is constantly broadcasting into the field around you. And here's the profound part. The universe responds to your frequency like a massive echo chamber. Whatever you broadcast, you attract back in the form of experiences, people, opportunities, and circumstances that match your signal. This is why some people seem to effortlessly attract success, while others struggle despite working twice as hard. It's not about effort. It's not about worthiness. It's not even about luck. It's about signal clarity. Let me give you some examples of how this works in real life. The frequency of fear. When you operate from fear, fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of not being enough, you broadcast a very specific signal. That signal attracts experiences that confirm your fears. You notice threats everywhere. Opportunities seem to disappear. People respond to your insecurity. You create the very reality you're afraid of, not because the universe is cruel, but because you're unconsciously requesting it through your frequency. The frequency of love. When you operate from genuine love, for yourself, for others, for life itself, you broadcast a completely different signal. People are drawn to you. Opportunities flow toward you. Problems resolve more easily. It's not magic. It's magnetism. Love is one of the highest frequencies in existence, and it naturally attracts more of itself. The frequency of gratitude. Gratitude is perhaps the most powerful frequency you can broadcast. When you're genuinely grateful, you're acknowledging abundance. You're saying yes to life. And life responds by giving you more to be grateful for. This isn't positive thinking. This is energetic alignment. But here's where most people get stuck. They try to change their external circumstances without first changing their internal frequency. They want a different life while broadcasting the same old signal. It's like trying to tune into a rock station while your radio is set to classical music. The station you want is broadcasting, but you're not aligned to receive it. So why don't we naturally know this? Why aren't we taught to work with frequency from childhood? Because we live in a world obsessed with the visible, the measurable, the real. We're conditioned to trust only what we can see, prove, or hold in our hands. We value solidity, structure, things that can be named and labeled. But frequency doesn't belong to that world. It can't be boxed or frozen. It lives in the invisible realm. This creates what I call the myth of solidity, the belief that reality is fixed, hard, and external to us. But the truth is exactly the opposite. Reality is soft, responsive, and deeply influenced by our internal state. From the moment we're born, we inherit frequencies from our environment. Our families have emotional patterns that we absorb. Our culture has belief systems that we download. Our education system teaches us to focus on problems rather than possibilities. Our media bombards us with frequencies of fear, scarcity, and separation. By the time we're adults, most of us are walking around with incredibly noisy signals. We're broadcasting a chaotic mix of inherited beliefs, unprocessed emotions, and unconscious patterns. No wonder life feels so random and difficult. Here's what's really happening. You have layers of frequency interference, preventing you from accessing your natural signal. It's like trying to tune into a clear radio station, while someone else is playing 5 different songs at the same time in the background. Emotional static, like unprocessed trauma, suppressed emotions, and chronic stress create interference in your signal. These lower frequencies, literally jam your ability to access higher states of consciousness and attract positive experiences. Mental noise, like repetitive negative thoughts, limiting beliefs, and mental habits, create loops in your frequency. You end up broadcasting the same signal over and over, which is why your life can feel stuck in patterns. Environmental interference, like the people you spend time with, the media you consume, the spaces you inhabit, all of these are constantly influencing your frequency. If you're surrounded by negativity, it becomes much harder to maintain a clear positive signal. Cultural programming. Society teaches us to focus on lack, to compete rather than collaborate, to fear rather than trust. These programmed responses create automatic frequency patterns that run in the background of our consciousness. The good news, once you understand how this works, you can start to clear the static and tune into your authentic frequency. Learning to work with frequency consciously is like developing a new sense. At first, it seems impossible. Then gradually, you start to notice subtle patterns you never saw before. Eventually, it becomes as natural as seeing or hearing. Here's how the awakening process typically unfolds. Stage 1. Recognition. You start to notice that your internal state directly affects your external experiences. When you're feeling good, good things happen. When you're stuck in negativity, life reflects that back to you. This isn't just positive thinking. You're beginning to see the actual correlation between your frequency and your reality. Stage 2. Experimentation. You begin deliberately shifting your internal state and watching how your external world responds. You practice gratitude and notice more things to be grateful for appearing in your life. You focus on love and find that relationships improve. You align with abundance and opportunities start flowing. Stage 3. Integration. Working with frequency becomes second nature. You develop an intuitive sense of what frequencies you're broadcasting and receiving. You can feel the energy of spaces, people, and situations before your mind analyzes them. You make decisions based on energetic alignment rather than just logical analysis. Stage 4. Mastery. You realize that you are both the instrument and the musician. You can consciously choose which frequency to broadcast in any situation. Your life becomes a deliberate creation rather than a random series of events. You understand that changing your frequency is the most powerful way to change your life. But let me be clear. This isn't about spiritual bypassing or pretending everything is perfect. Working with frequency requires radical honesty about what you're actually broadcasting. Sometimes that means facing uncomfortable truths about your patterns, beliefs, and behaviors. So how do you actually tune your frequency? How do you clear the static and access your authentic signal? Here are the most powerful tools I've discovered. Number 1. Conscious breathing. Your breath is directly connected to your frequency. Shallow, anxious breathing broadcasts stress and fear. Deep, rhythmic breathing creates coherence in your nervous system and elevates your frequency. Spend just 5 minutes breathing consciously, and you can completely shift your energetic state. Number 2. Meditation and stillness. The more noise in your system, the harder it is to perceive subtle frequencies. Meditation isn't about emptying your mind. It's about clearing the static so you can hear your natural signal. Even 10 minutes of stillness daily can dramatically improve your frequency awareness. Number 3. Emotional clearing. Suppressed emotions create interference patterns in your frequency. Learning to feel and release emotions as they arise keeps your signal clear. This doesn't mean being emotional all the time. It means being emotionally honest and fluid. Number 4. Frequency hygiene. Just like physical hygiene, you need frequency hygiene. This means being conscious about what you expose yourself to. The music you listen to, the news you consume, the conversations you engage in, the people you spend time with. All of these are either elevating or lowering your frequency. Number 5. Alignment practices. Regularly check in with yourself. Does this feel aligned? Trust your body's wisdom. Your physical sensations are often more accurate than your thoughts when it comes to frequency recognition. If something makes you feel contracted, heavy, or drained, it's probably not aligned with your highest frequency. Number 6. Nature connection. Nature operates at perfectly coherent frequencies. Spending time in natural environments automatically helps attune your system to more harmonious patterns. This is why being in nature feels so restorative. You're literally syncing up with coherent frequency patterns. Number 7. Creative expression. Creativity is one of the most direct ways to express your authentic frequency. Whether it's art, music, writing, or any form of creative expression, you're broadcasting your unique signal when you create. This is why creative pursuits feel so fulfilling. You're aligned with your natural frequency. Number 8. Service and contribution. When you focus on how you can serve or contribute to others, you naturally shift into higher frequencies. This isn't about self-sacrifice. It's about recognizing that we're all part of a larger frequency pattern, and when we support the whole, we elevate ourselves. Number 9. Gratitude practice. Gratitude might be the single most powerful frequency shifting tool available. When you're genuinely grateful, you're broadcasting abundance, appreciation, and love. The universe responds by giving you more experiences that match those frequencies. Number 10. Energy management. Learn to recognize what gives you energy and what drains it. High-frequency activities, people, and environments will energize you. Low-frequency experiences will deplete you. Manage your energy like the precious resource it is. Number 11. Intention setting. Your intentions act like tuning forks, helping you align with specific frequencies. But here's the key. Your intentions must be backed by genuine emotion and belief. Empty affirmations don't work because they lack energetic substance. When people hear the term higher frequency, they often imagine something superior or exclusive, something reserved for monks or mystics. But this is a fundamental misunderstanding. Higher frequency doesn't mean better in a moral sense. It means more coherent, more aligned, more in sync with the underlying patterns of life. It's like the difference between a beautiful symphony and random noise. Both are made of sound waves, but one has harmony and the other has chaos. Living at a higher frequency doesn't make you special. It makes you effective. It means you move through life with less resistance because you're no longer pushing against the current. You're moving with it. Here's what actually happens when you consistently operate at higher frequencies. Synchronicity becomes normal. When you're aligned with your authentic frequency, the universe seems to conspire to support you. You think of someone and they call. You need information and it appears. You follow hunches that lead exactly where you need to go. This isn't luck. It's alignment. You're tuned into the same frequency as the opportunities and connections that serve your highest good. Intuition sharpens dramatically. Your intuition isn't a mystical power. It's your natural ability to perceive frequency patterns that your conscious mind hasn't yet analyzed. When you're operating at higher frequencies, your intuitive abilities become incredibly accurate. You can sense truth, not just in facts, but in feeling. You know things before you know how you know them. Relationships transform. People respond to frequency before they respond to words. When you're broadcasting authenticity, love, and coherence, others naturally feel safe and drawn to you. Toxic relationships fall away because there's no frequency match. Healthy relationships deepen because you're able to connect at more profound levels. Creativity explodes. Creativity flows most freely when you're aligned with higher frequencies. Ideas come effortlessly. Solutions appear. You tap into a source of inspiration that feels infinite. This is because creativity is essentially frequency expression. You're translating your unique vibrational signature into form. Health improves. Your physical body is constantly responding to your frequency. Stress, fear, and negativity create disharmony in your system, leading to illness and disease. Love, joy, and peace create coherence, supporting natural healing and vitality. This isn't alternative medicine. This is how your nervous system, immune system, and endocrine system actually function. Abundance flows. Money is energy, and it flows toward coherent frequency patterns. When you're aligned with higher frequencies, you naturally attract resources, opportunities, and support. This isn't about greed or materialism. It's about being an open channel for the flow of universal abundance. Purpose becomes clear. At higher frequencies, You can sense your unique role in the larger pattern of existence. Your purpose isn't something you have to figure out intellectually. It's something you feel into. You understand how your gifts and talents fit into the greater whole. Peace becomes your default state. Instead of peace being something you have to achieve, it becomes your natural state. Challenges still arise, but they don't disturb your fundamental equilibrium. You respond to life from a place of centeredness rather than reactivity. You become a healing presence. When you consistently operate at higher frequencies, you naturally become a source of coherence for others. People feel better around you. Conflicts resolve more easily when you're present. You become a tuning fork, helping others remember their own natural harmony. Now let's go deeper into the mysteries of frequency that most people never discover. Quantum physicists talk about something called the zero-point field, a realm of infinite potential that exists beneath physical reality. This field contains every possible version of your life, every potential outcome, every possible path. Your frequency determines which possibilities you can access and which ones remain invisible to you. When you raise your frequency, you literally gain access to higher possibilities that were always there but previously beyond your reach. It's like upgrading your consciousness to receive more channels of reality. But you're not just broadcasting your individual frequency. You're also participating in collective frequency fields. Your family has a collective frequency. Your community has one. Your nation, your species, even your planet operates at specific frequency ranges. These collective fields are incredibly powerful. They can either support your individual frequency or create interference. This is why it's so important to consciously choose the collective fields you participate in. The company you keep, literally and figuratively, determines which frequency ranges you have access to. And here's something that will stretch your understanding. Your frequency doesn't just attract experiences. It actually determines which timeline you experience. Every moment, infinite possible futures branch out from the present. Your frequency acts like a navigation system, guiding you toward the timeline that matches your energetic signature. When you make a significant frequency shift, you can literally shift timelines. Suddenly, possibilities that seemed impossible become inevitable. People from your past fall away while new people appear. Opportunities that were never available suddenly become obvious. You haven't just changed your perspective. You've changed your trajectory through the multiverse of possibilities. Also, when you're aligned with higher frequencies, your perception of time changes. Flow states, where time seems to stop or accelerate, are actually frequency alignment experiences. You're syncing up with the natural rhythm of creation itself. This is why some people accomplish incredible things, while others struggle to make progress. It's not about working harder. It's about aligning with the frequency of flow, where time becomes your ally, rather than your limitation. We're living through an unprecedented moment in human history. More people are becoming conscious of frequency and vibration than ever before. Ancient wisdom that was once hidden is becoming mainstream knowledge. Science is validating what mystics have known for millennia. This isn't happening by accident. We're experiencing a collective frequency shift that's awakening humanity to its true nature and potential. Old systems based on fear, control, and separation are breaking down because they're no longer sustainable at the frequencies we're evolving toward. This can look chaotic and frightening, but it's actually a necessary part of the awakening process. As more individuals raise their frequency, the collective frequency of humanity rises. This creates pressure on all the systems and structures that aren't aligned with higher consciousness. They must either evolve or dissolve. Many spiritual traditions speak of a new earth or a golden age. These aren't just metaphorical concepts. They're describing a collective frequency shift that transforms how we experience reality. When enough people operate at higher frequencies, we create new collective possibilities. Imagine a world where most people make decisions from love rather than fear, where cooperation replaces competition, where abundance is shared rather than hoarded, where creativity and consciousness are valued more than consumption and control. This isn't utopian fantasy. It's the natural result of collective frequency elevation. Every person who chooses to raise their frequency contributes to this collective shift. You're not just improving your own life. You're helping to birth a new paradigm of human consciousness. This is why your personal frequency work matters so much. You're not being selfish by focusing on your own spiritual development. You're being of service to the entire human family. Every time you choose love over fear, coherence over chaos, alignment over resistance, you're adding your frequency to the growing chorus of awakened consciousness. We've covered a lot of ground, but everything I've shared points to one simple truth. You are far more powerful than you've been taught to believe. You are not a victim of circumstances, genetics, or fate. You are a conscious creator, equipped with the ability to broadcast any frequency you choose. But with this power comes responsibility. Once you understand how frequency works, you can no longer pretend that your thoughts, emotions, and actions don't matter. You can no longer blame external circumstances for your internal state. You must take full ownership of the signal you're broadcasting. This can be overwhelming at first. It means that if your life isn't working, you have to look at what frequency you're holding. It means that changing your external world requires changing your internal world first. It means taking radical responsibility for your experience. But it also means incredible freedom. If you're creating your experience through frequency, then you can change your experience by changing your frequency. You're not stuck with the patterns you inherited. You're not limited by your past. You can tune into any frequency you choose, right now, in this moment. Start each day by consciously choosing your frequency. Before you check your phone, before you get caught up in the demands of the day, take a few moments to tune in. Ask yourself, what frequency do I want to broadcast today? How do I want to feel? What kind of energy do I want to contribute to the world? Then throughout the day, keep checking in. When you notice your frequency dropping, when you feel stressed, anxious, angry, or depleted, don't judge it. Simply recognize it and make a conscious choice to shift. Remember that your frequency doesn't just affect you. It affects everyone and everything around you. When you operate at higher frequencies, you give others permission to do the same. You become a catalyst for positive change in your family, your community, your world. Your coherent frequency helps heal the collective chaos. Your authentic expression helps others remember their own truth. Your commitment to growth helps accelerate the awakening of human consciousness.